John.
We most certainly do not have anybody watching on Twitch yet, but for those of you watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 5, I want to say, of the Grey Lanterns, an IKRPG adventure. Last week I didn't bother doing this, but we'll do this week. Let's just have a check-in of which characters are here. So we'd like to start with Konstantin, because you're the party leader.
My name is Konstantin Karasimov. I am a Kadoran, Manite, aristocratic, military officer.
And then we'll go to Adol.
Hello, I roleplay Adele. Adele is a Laeli's exile, totally not a Theramite, and also not a necromancer. Since our wonderful GM has given us the chance to switch up our classes a bit, today being the deadline, I have dropped his arcane mechanic until later, as I'm going to explore the more noble side of Adele and his Laeli's heritage. So I hope you'll enjoy his journey with me.
Very good. And Murta.
So that's me, playing Murta. He's a guy who's been in Five Fingers a little while now. There's a bit of background that's for where he was from before that's bled into the campaign. Let you guys figure that out. And he's a cutthroat bounty hunter, so he likes roughing people up. So yeah, that's me.
I like to imagine him as a fleshy version of Roberto from Futurama. That's my headcanon for your character, by the way.
I need to go back and watch Futurama. It's been so long.
It's the robot that's like becomes Fry's roommate in the insane asylum. So he gets introduced to him and he says, "What's wrong, Fry? You scared?" And Fry starts stammering, no. Roberto just goes, "Noticeably, I'll say." Now stand back, I've got to practice my stabbing.
Yes, I actually remember that now.
Yeah. It was seared into my brain just for the love of that moment. Righty-ho, so currently...
Controversial. Yeah. Better than The Simpsons.
Yeah, definitely better than The Simpsons. So currently you guys had just rescued that coffin from the bottom of the Oggin, and you just arrived back in the scrapyard. So current quests are to deliver the nobleman's coffin, to investigate the disappearance of the docks, and you guys collectively said that you're not interested in retrieving the wooden box from the manor house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, I'm just going to delete it, okay?
Cool.
It's gone.
I think we collectively decided it was either too much trouble or not suiting of the Grey Lanterns.
Well, also, you don't really have, like, any reward for it outside of whatever you steal, which you don't need a quest to go steal stuff. You could just do it.
Yeah.
So, Tom, since our Trollkin ally, whose name I forget, Justin, I believe,
Yep, Justin.
isn't with us, and he was there last time, will you be NPCing him?
I will be NPCing
until we get back to base?
Until we get back to base.
Perfect. Also, out of character, since we're talking about stabbing, last time there was a song about Constantine. Do you remember the lyrics?
I do not.
Oh dear.
Was there a song about Constantine? I am unaware of this.
Yep.
Oh,
yes.
yes.
You sang a song about Constantine as you walked past them in the middle of the night.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Constantine stabbed him clean, or something along those lines.
I have no memory of this place. Did I?
Well, it's on the stream somewhere.
Well, if one of you wants to go back and watch, you are more than welcome. I don't remember. Who sung the song?
You did.
You did.
No, but, like, was it a player singing it?
No, from the people who'd watched the duel, who we invited to the pub and then didn't go to the pub.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh my god, I'm a brilliant GM, aren't I? Yeah, that canonically happened.
Yep.
Oh. Well, you're welcome. No, I have very little memory of that. You can chalk that up to me just having a terrible, terrible memory. Which I hear is a good trait in a GM, because you can all be like, "Yeah, it was 500 gold we were promised, right?" Okay.
500 each, mind you.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I can't remember agreeing to
And
that.
a light war back.
I can't remember agreeing to that, but sure. So as you are now in the scrapyard, Vab is very much like I said last episode. She's investigating the damage to her scrap vessel. You've got this very sodden coffin which you need to deliver. And you need to presumably hire a cart, because one would imagine it would probably not be in your best interests to carry a structurally potentially unsound coffin of a nobleman through town.
Since I'm no longer an arcane mechanic, but masquerading as one, do I know if the coffin has been nailed down?
Why would being an arcane mechanic have anything to do with that?
Well, being a nobleman and all, he may have absolutely no idea how things are put together now. But in all seriousness,
what intelligence is
are
your
we going to
character?
check to make sure the... sometimes I really don't know. It varies on the day.
Yeah.
After all, he did start a brawl in a bathhouse over 1 gold piece. So, anyway...
Yeah, he really did.
So yeah, we should probably check to make sure the body's there and in one piece.
Wait, are you advocating opening the coffin?
I think he may be.
My issue with opening the coffin is that there may be a certain structural integrity that the coffin has, that if you opened it, we are never going to retrieve that structural integrity again. Like once
Yes,
we
that
open
was my concern
we're never
too.
going to be able to close it.
Yeah, I would not advocate opening the coffin either.
Okay, we're actually better get in character now. But yes,
probably.
Can we do a detection test just to make sure that the coffin has something inside it?
I am going to say yes, because why would I say no?
Okay.
So Murta thinks that it weighs pretty much what a human would weigh, and he seems quite sure of how much a human would weigh.
It's like, yeah, weighs about right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Cool.
go. Nobleman, how old was he supposed to be? Yeah, that's about right for a rich fat guy.
Cool beans. Right, let's get this cart.
Yeah.
So
Adele,
as you're going, Vab turns to you and says, even though what you hired me for has cost me in terms of my boat, she says, I know that wasn't anything to do with you guys, that wasn't your fault, but you really did save my bacon before that. I owe you guys.
I kind of turn around and go, owe us enough to lend us a cart?
She says, yeah, certainly, you can borrow my cart.
Wicked. Turn to the boss.
Owe us enough to take Tin Boy?
Tin Boy's not operational at the minute.
But
we could certainly come to an agreement.
okay, that's good to know in future.
I offer to help Justin putting the coffin on the cart.
Okay, so between the two of the strongest members of the party, you load the coffin onto the cart. One would probably imagine you then are going to decide who sits where on the cart.
Have we got something to pull the cart?
Yeah, there's a horse.
Right. Okay. Well, I should probably drive.
It's a single horse cart.
Yeah. I'll drive. Justin should ride. Justin should ride shotgun because he has a massive gun.
Yep, seems fair. And then Adele and Murta in the back with the coffin.
Adele suggests that we tie the coffin down. He'd also like to have a word with that.
Yep, sure.
So Adele turns to Bab and has a quiet word with her and says, "Have you thought any more on our offer? If these guys give you any more trouble again, let us know, and we would be happy to take care of them."
She says, "Thanks very much. I'll consider it and let you know."
While Murta's using various bits of rope that are about to tie down the cat.
Okay.
Not the best job he's done.
You used a rope use for me. Oh, Mr. Ambassador. Yes, you do tease me with me not even having to ask. Yep, brilliant. So, you guys, where are you guys going with this coffin?
Right. We need to go back to the chapter house because we need to see if there's anything in the records that we were given that would give us a location of where we need to take this.
I remember it was South Bank, South Shore, but I don't know where in South Bank, South Shore.
Any other ideas?
Well, if necessary, we could always show up at Riley's estate and go through his things.
You do not want to go to Riley's estate. It is miles away.
Is it in Merritt?
No. He's Ordic. He's an Ordic family.
You are desperate to go to Merrin.
No, I'm not.
Right.
Lies and slander.
Could everyone make an intelligence roll, please?
Sure.
Just a base intelligence roll.
Holy shit!
Right, Murta says, well, wasn't the coffin destined to be buried in South Shore, in one of the graveyards? Wouldn't it make sense to take it there?
Do we know what the family was? Do we know what the plot was? Do we know?
There's a crest on the coffin. The family crest.
And it's a village.
Yeah.
So
if we take it to a village, go to the graveyard, kind of like try and find it, people will probably come up to us and go, "What are you doing?" And we can go, "Right, we've got this crest, we know it belongs to a family, we've retrieved it, but our boss was a bit of an idiot and didn't tell us who the family was, so..."
Sounds reasonable.
Who's the family?
Can I use my adventurous scholar's tools with my law bonus to make a law roll for the crest?
With your law bonus for what?
Researching and discovering quote-unquote
That's
artifacts.
not law, so that's not law, that's a different skill.
Research is a different skill.
Yeah, it said +2 to law and to research.
Yeah, but law, unless you
in the book.
have law, like, say you're trying to use your research tools to investigate an Orgriff tomb, you can use law Orgriff and get +2 on your roll for it. If you're just looking at a coffin that you don't have any specific knowledge of, your research tools aren't giving you a bonus specific to something you don't have. Also, you don't need to. Just go to the graveyard. Trust.
Fair enough. Let's go. So,
Yeah,
what's the jukebox?
Trust the GM who laughs in GM.
That's in GM. You're not overthinking this, dude. Like I said, it's a village.
Cool. So, shall we just get in the cart and go, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a bard, do you?
No, we don't.
Which means you have to make awkward conversation while you've got nobody to play your tunes.
That's okay. We're mercenaries. We should know battle songs in Laelese and Cadoran.
Okay, so while you're doing this, Murta is feeling really, really awkward because he doesn't speak Laelese or Cadoran.
He can
No,
join in with a tune.
No, Murta is just going to put his legs on the coffin and fall asleep. He's having a nap.
Oh, that's unfortunate because I imagine Justin would be like the best singer you've ever heard.
Oh, I imagine it's a bit like in Zulu. I imagine he's got an awesome baritone, singing songs about I don't know, like circle druid spear points gleaming or something.
As long as we're not using the coffin for a drum, it's all good.
Yep. So you were up here on the map. Up here.
Right.
And you go on your merry way all the way down through Chaser Island, through Captain's Island, down to Hospice Island, to this point here where the ferry is. Okay.
Cool beat.
At which point we are probably going to have to look at paying for a ferry. Let me just check what's in the party funds, chaps. We still have 20 free gold because Murtaugh blew his gasket.
Okay.
Cool.
So
yeah.
you approach the ferry. I am going to make the ferry information available to you guys under location South Shore. So it's widely known. So the information that you're seeing here is widely known. So that's why I'm just giving it to you. That the ferry is run by the brothers Brogan and Kel Strop. The fare for foot passengers is 2 silver. There's no charge for horses if they're stabled at their own stables on Hospice Island, which won't apply to you because you're taking the horse across.
Mm-hmm.
Carts and wagons are 3 silver per axle.
3 silver per axle.
Yep. So this is a 2-axle vehicle.
Yeah. So that's 6 silver plus 4 for the horse. So that's 10 for the cart and 4 people.
No,
so that's
horse,
18 silver.
No, the horse is included in the cart fee. If you'd be paying for the horse if you were just a rider.
Okay, so 14 silver.
Yep. Because otherwise,
so a gold and 4 silver.
If you're on a 3-axle vehicle being pulled by 2 to 4 horses, it becomes a bit prohibitive.
It becomes a bit the players going, the fuck, GM.
We just buy a new cart. It becomes a bit like
So, did we stop by the base and leave the Trollkin and our broken loot there?
He just got off.
Okay, that
So,
reduces it to 12 silver.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
I don't feel great about risking his character.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a
I was
risk.
more concerned about the money.
David, just so you're aware, I don't plan a risk for you. You guys plan a risk for you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lest you remember, he started a fight in a bathhouse.
That's entirely fair.
Because he vomited on himself.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's not revisit that. Upon seeing the ferry, Adele gets this twitch in his eye and goes, and he shakes slightly, and then snaps out.
The slight sound wakes Murtaugh up, and he looks at you and goes, "What?"
At this, Adele, he does rock paper scissors with Murtaugh
At which point, it's Murta joins in. I don't know how we want to do this. It's not for anything in particular. It's just for fluff.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So the ferry itself.
Adele proceeds to win most of the games.
The ferry itself is a wide square-looking ship. It's steam powered and looks to be able to carry quite a few carts at once. Current foot traffic is just a couple of people. You're going to be on the ferry for, say, half an hour.
Okay.
Cool.
Adele is very leery of going too close to the rail, and every so often he looks over and then pulls back as if he's seeing something horrendous in his mind's eye.
I poke the captain and go, "Is he all right?"
I don't know. Let's ask him.
Fire, burning ferries. No, I'm fine. Never mind. Let's continue. And for once, Adele is not using his posh boy accent.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to switch to Leolese, and I'm going to say, "Are you sure you're okay? Is everything all right?"
Adele replies, "Do you remember the battlefield we were on, where most of our company died?
Of course.
Every so often, I get flashbacks of another time, another place, and I see things just like that."
Fair enough. Well, if you need anything, if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know.
As long as there's a railing and I don't vomit all over myself, everything's fine. Thank you, Captain.
Okie dokie. So yeah, you're on the ferry for half an hour.
That is a pretty low standard of success. If I don't vomit on myself. Okay, half an hour. Just gonna keep scanning the water, checking that our friend the hole grinder has not returned. Although it's unlikely to be.
Okay, make a perception roll then. Sorry, detection roll. Anyone else? What are you guys doing?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. Continuing to lose. There is a clear pattern to how Mert is playing, and he is not picking paper.
I was going to say, Adele just picks paper.
So
Yeah. It's like, but it makes no sense.
Well, actually, I would imagine that your character would be more inclined to pick the sharp one of scissors.
Yeah, generally he's switching between the two. It's just literally the only one he's not picking is paper.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So Constantine scans the water. You don't see the hole grinder, but with what you do see is you do see other people on the ferry looking into the water.
I'm going to go up to one of them and say, "What are you looking for?"
One of them says, it's darndest thing, this giant, great big fish has been attacking ships in the choked finger the last couple of days."
I think we may have come across that.
Yeah.
What type of fish is it?
Some people think it's a hole grinder.
Okay. Any idea where it came from?
Probably out to sea.
Okay.
Can we hear this?
I don't know how close you are to him. It's up to you.
I assume we're sat in the cart. So I don't know.
So no, you
I
can't
assume
hear
we're
this.
with the cars.
You can't hear this.
Okay.
Right.
How many ships has it taken down?
None so far, but it did attack this ferry. At this point, you notice there are actually hastily installed deck guns that weren't previously on this. They're not like a permanent fixture to this ship.
Is anyone manned these days?
Yes.
Can I go and speak to one of those guys?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay. Expecting trouble?
Yeah. Well, we were hired by the ferry owners to keep the hull grinder away should it attack again. See the
How
thing.
much damage?
You what?
How much damage did it do last time?
None really, because the ferry was quite close to the jetties when it came along last time, so it went shallower than the hull grinder prefers.
Is it? Have any other ships from around this part of the world been hit?
Well, a couple of fishing vessels have gone down or not returned, so we reckon it's taken a few people's lives.
And you reckon it comes from out to sea?
That's what most people think. Yeah, they tend to be more prevalent at sea.
All right.
The trouble is they think that ships are big whales and other various things that they prey on. It thinks that the ship is its prey when it's not, and attacks it as if it's going to get a meal. Sometimes they realise partway through that they're not going to actually get any food out of it, but sometimes if it's a fishing vessel, then the cargo gets spilt, and that kind of adds to the fallacy of it being a meal for it.
Okay. If you see anything, give me a shout.
Okay, will do. Are you guys offering to give a hand?
Hey, we don't want to go down any more than you do, mate.
Fair enough. Appreciate it.
I'm just going to check that my hand cannon's loaded.
Yep, it is.
Cool.
Meanwhile, Adele is explaining to Mercer the finer points of geology and explaining that a rock is kind of like hardened, dried out clay, and if you smash clay with paper wrapped around it, it will destroy the rock.
And Mirta's going,
Sorry,
that's
ridiculous.
still not the paper destroying the rock.
So you guys are just going to argue this point.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay.
Adele just kind of shrugs and throws his hands up in the air and curses in Laelese. And then he tries again with the idea of coal instead of rock. And realizes that if you bash coal against a pair of scissors, the scissors may break the coal.
I'm going to wander over at this point and go, but the paper's pink, so it doesn't defeat the rock so much as humiliate.
When Mirta kind of looks up and goes, yeah, but rocks don't talk. How do you know they're humiliated? Just going,
Adele says it's a metaphor.
It's Mirta go, right, metaphor, I get them.
Rocks are like ogrins. Scissors are like gobbers. Paper are like aristocrats.
And now you've lost me again, because if a rock's like an ogrin and paper's like an aristocrat, I can tell you, most aristocrats are going to get smashed by an ogrin.
No, but they can pay the ogrin, not to smash.
Oh, right. So what you mean is it's rock, paper, money.
Yes.
Scissors money.
Wouldn't the paper be money?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's rock, paper, money. It's you pay people to. Yeah, it works.
Is there a gobbler on this ship we can extort?
Have a look.
I'm okay.
You just missed out on meeting Pimply Shribbles.
Pimply Shrib.
I'm making.
I need to watch. I need to watch the new episode of that. That they actually started the rest of that season now.
They did. I watched it. So, you spend your time on the ship fruitlessly.
Basically,
Attempting again to explain rock paper scissors to Murta.
Yep. Okay. So, as the ship pulls into towards the jetties of South Shore, you see what looks to be a kind of sorry-looking little village hugging the northern edge of Signar, so the southern bank of the river, but the northern edge of Signar, as it were. If that makes any sense to you.
Yes.
yeah.
Most of the buildings are wooden in construction. There are a couple of stone buildings. One in particular is the only two-story building in the village. Kind of dominates the area.
Right, I'm going to suggest we head there.
Okay. So, as you exit the ferry, the bloke with the cannon gives you a nod as you leave. You notice off to the west there looks to be a smaller scrap-looking boat with what looks to be netting that you see a man and two goblin-looking creatures emptying, which is full of from the distance you are just junk. Then off in front of you, looming is the two-story building. The roads are not paved in this village. So you approach and you can see clearly that it is an inn.
Okay. Let's go.
An inn. So let's go to the graveyard.
So I've added it to your journals. It is called the South Shore Inn, very imaginatively named.
Adele turns to Constantine and says, "Shall we do the very unmanly thing and ask if anyone knows the family crest?"
Mutter under my breath about toxic masculinity and then go, right, in you go then. Ask if you know anything. We'll stay with the cart.
Perfect.
Oh, is this like
So,
not
Adele-
wanting to ever ask directions?
Yes, that's exactly.
Men.
I will stay with the cart and the coffin because I don't trust people.
Okay, so as Adele enters the inn, it's fairly lively. It's about getting towards evening at this point because you spent most of the day retrieving this coffin. So it's getting towards evening. There's quite a few people in, and they are eating around tables in the main area of the inn. It seems like for the size of the village, like a majority of the population of the village come here to eat their evening meal.
Do I see any waitresses or anyone greet me as I walk in, or is it just seat wherever I want?
No one greets you as you come in, but you can see a couple of people carrying trays of food to various tables.
In that
And you can
case,
see a man behind the bar as well.
Adela's going to go up to the bar
Okay.
and wait to be served.
Okay, so the bloke was filling some mugs for some rough-looking men before you get served. A man with a few rough pock marks and scars across his face with a kind of grumpy look to him, turns to you and says, "What will be having?"
Good sir, what is your local specialty here? I am a purveyor of ales and beers
He said, "Oh,
and fine wines.
He says, "Well, if it's ales you're looking for, we have the ale from the Flying Distillery."
Perfect. How would you describe its body and flavour?
Ale.
Stout, bitter?
Just drink it.
I heard the GM's voice in that.
What's
So,
what's a GM?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we still in character? Anyway, Adele takes a sip of that.
Character? What do you mean?
Oh my God, Tom, shut up.
Tom?
Adele takes a sip of it, and he examines it, and he says, "This is quite good, thank you." And then he says,
"Sorry, carry on."
And then he says, "I'm actually looking for the local noble family here. I believe they lost a family member recently."
Local noble family? Don't know anything about that. There's nobody noble that lives here.
Oh, indeed. That's interesting to know.
But if you're after somebody that's lost somebody, I might be able to remember.
And how many ales would that take to jog your memory, sir?
Maybe a pitcher.
Adele takes out his adventuring satchel with the adventuring tools in, and he sketches the noble.
Yep. Okay. Are you still saying things? Because if you are, I can't hear you.
No, I was waiting for you to have him respond to the crest.
Okay, cool. So he holds his hand up as if wanting money.
Adele's eyebrow raises.
He says, "The pitcher isn't free."
Yes, and how much are you asking for?
Oh, he says 2 silver.
All right, as long as you can provide.
He holds his hand out, and like his eyes look from his hand to you, and then back to his hand again.
Adele places 1 silver in the man's hand and holds the other between his fingers.
He said, "Look, mate, I've got plenty of other customers to serve. If you want to piss about, fuck off."
Adele puts the 2nd silver down.
He says, "Fine." Puts the money under the bar. Goes back to one of the big barrel casks at the back of the bar and starts filling up a pitcher. He says to you, upstairs in the suite is a family. They just happen to have lost a family member in their coffin was being transported over here for burial not a couple of days ago in a storm. Mayhaps they are who you're looking for?"
And which room might I find them in, good sir?
The only suite. It's above the kitchen.
Thank you. The next time we're in this area, I will make sure I tell my compatriots that they should visit your inn. You've been very helpful.
He says, "Here's your picture."
Thank you. Adele takes the picture outside to his fellows, and he nods to Constantine.
Is roughly 8 mugs worth of ale.
Good thing we don't have an Ogren or a troll. Adele nods to Constantine and says, "I found them."
Did you speak to them?
No, not as yet. They're upstairs in the suite. I wanted to let you guys know in case you thought anything was amiss. Do you want to speak to them, sir, or would you rather I did?
Murtar, have you got this down here?
Yeah, I can
Marcus
look
sees the
after.
ale.
Yeah, I can look after this if you leave that with me. Kind of points at the picture.
Adele looks at Murta and says, "You realise if you drink all of this, someone might take our coffin."
I go, not going to drink the whole thing. Won't drink the whole thing. I've got some class.
Start shouting if anything goes amiss.
Right, shouting. Got it. Pass the picture.
Adele notes Constantine's military uniform and says, "Shall we do this with ceremony and class and dignity?"
And then Murta go, oh, 1 second. They're Morrowing. Worth remembering.
Good shout.
Yeah. Turn to Meta and go, "Are you Morrowan?"
I look at the pair of you and go, Morrow. Yeah, all right. And start drinking my first beer.
Adele's eyebrow raises and says, "Menoth?"
I shrug slightly as I'm drinking.
Right.
Adele turns back to Constantine and says, "After you, sir."
Okay. We'll go upstairs and we'll speak to the family with as much class and dignity as we can we can manage. After all, Morrow was allowed to become a god by the Creator.
Allowed? I don't think
Yeah.
it was allowed.
That's what the synod said.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
what the old faith says.
Yeah, that's what the old face says.
Yes, what it says and what happened.
That's what Constantine believes, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Just like people of the Soulmanite faith believe that burning people is good.
Yeah, the Sulmenites sit there and go, oh, you spoke improperly. That warrants a burning.
Yeah, they're basically like that substitute teacher in The Simpsons.
That's Pablo.
That's a bad one.
So so you go up the stairs. You notice there's several different doors upstairs. They're clearly marked. One says suite, the others just have room insignia numbers, so not numbers as we know them, but numbers as the Iron Kingdoms know them. And then one says bunkhouse. So I take it you're going to knock on the door of the suite.
Yeah, knock on the door.
Yes.
Sweet.
So a woman opens the door. She's dressed in quite fine clothing, especially for this type of village. She takes you both in and looks scared.
Okay.
Adele stands as tall and as straight as military decorum and Laeli's upbringing allows.
I'm just gonna, do the best of Cadoran nobility.
Yep.
In my greeting to her, I'm going to make sure that all of the noble cues that I know about as a Cadoran are followed.
Yep.
I imagine they'd be similar to Ordic and Signaran and Laeli's and yeah, that's it, isn't it?
You sure do imagine that.
That's what I would imagine as a noble.
Yep, no worries.
I'm going to bow from the waist and introduce myself and Adele. My good lady, my name is Lord Konstantin Karasimov, and this is my good friend and companion, Adele. We have something which may be of interest to you.
She says, your reputation precedes you, sir.
How so, madam?
Adele clears his throat and says, "Captain." And then he mouths the word, "Riley."
That was all done in the most noble of circumstances.
Noble for your mind, but not for ours. Raleigh was a dear friend of ours.
Adele clears his throat and says, "My dear lady, I am so sorry for your loss. However, before his unfortunate passing, Lord Sheridan III mentioned that you had lost a close member of your family, and we had, as part of his last wishes, retrieved the remnants for you."
You found my husband?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
She seems somewhat cheered by the news that her husband's body has been recovered. Where is he? Where is he? I need to see his casket with my own eyes.
Of course, ma'am. That is why the two of us are here, to escort you to the casket. We felt that it would be more proper for us as the Grey Lanterns to be here properly, lest anyone causes you any impropriety.
Well, I much appreciate that.
Okay.
Is there anyone else in the room, or is it just the woman?
There's a servant. A servant who hasn't said anything.
Are you travelling alone, my lady?
Why, simply the thought of it, no.
Where are the rest of your party?
'Tis no business of yours.
I believe what my companion is saying is, if you would desire an escort, we'd be more than happy to oblige.
Would you be willing to continue carrying the my late husband's remains as far as his resting place?
My lady, the thought of doing otherwise had never crossed our minds.
Fantastic. He will, of course, be interred at Thorian Rest.
Adele inclines his head.
Okay,
No.
you've inclined your head. I don't know what you expect inclining your head to do, dude.
He's simply acknowledging it. I mean, what else is he supposed to do? He's not the captain. He doesn't actually call the shots.
Okay, cool.
My lady, would you like to view the coffin?
She says yes.
It's just outside.
Her nose notably wrinkles any time you've spoken.
Okay.
Adele holds the door open for her.
She shuffles out, quickly followed by her servant, and then presumably you guys follow.
Adele shoots Constantine a look and kind of half shrugs.
Constantine nods back as if to say, "You take the lead."
Adele gives a sharper, curter inclination of his head.
Constantine gets that.
Somehow Adele thought he might.
You guys are subtlety incarnate. So you make your way downstairs through the main part of the inn and outside, where you find the cart sitting there and Murta sat atop with a chugging from a pitcher of ale.
Adele shoots him a look from behind the woman's back and does the whole hand motion.
A perception roll from Murta to see if he notices this.
It's like, yeah, it's he wouldn't be chugging like ridiculously, but just as a thing, it's like Yeah, he'd be drinking, but like not like
I still need a
smashing
perception
it
roll,
back. Yeah. Oh, I'm totally doing that. I was just saying.
Yep. You notice the look that
Roll,
he's been given.
rolling all the crits before I spend a feat point.
Oh yeah. By the way, FYI, you guys are all at max feat points.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So Adele is basically saying, hide that, get your feet off the coffin, look sharp.
Because you had your feet on the coffin.
Yeah, I did. I put the picture behind me. I take my feet off. I sit slightly straighter and kind of give him a look that says, "How's that?"
Adele gives him 2 thumbs up and then quickly hides the fact that he did.
Okay. So she approaches it. She gently rests her hand atop the coffin and whispers something that is inaudible, and then says, "Is it okay to go now? I know it's late, but he's been above ground too long."
Absolutely, my lady. That is why we came to find you. Of course we will continue. We would not wish you to spend another evening in this place.
So I've also added the Flying Distillery to your knowledge because you've heard of it now. It's just
And tasted it.
Sorry?
And tasted it.
Yeah, so it's a distillery on Crane Island. I've not got any plans for you to go there, but I'm trying to add locations when you hear of them, just to flesh out the world some.
Fair enough.
Righto.
So I am now adding the Thurin Rest to your journals. So I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
So often called the Towers by locals, by the number of size and monuments that crowd within its 10-foot high boundary wall. From a distance, you could mistake this from a small town. Here lay only the rich and well-born. Wealth alone does not guarantee a resting place here. Only those with recognized Thurian blood are buried here.
Hey, I'm sorry, my connection just dropped. I missed everything that was said for the last 20 seconds.
I've basically read the thing that you can read yourself.
Perfect.
So I shall not be reading it again.
Adele shoots Murtagh a look and mouths words, "Don't sing the song."
I look at him and just, I'm not mouthing back. I go, "What song?" Just like, what?
Adele tries to very carefully cover his facepalm, so it's inaudible. And aware that the noble woman may be watching, he says, "Never mind, I'm just referring to the battle hymn of the Grey Lantern."
I nod, carry on looking slightly confused. I wasn't on the watch where the song was sung. And kind of just turn around to keep an eye on the casket.
So as you approach the Thurian Rest, with its high walls, you notice that compared to the commoner's graveyard, which you'd have passed on the way, this is actually has people on patrol. It's well kept. The grounds are fairly immaculate and nicely presented. Lots of various mausoleums and tombs rise out of the horizon to meet you as you get closer to it. You eventually reach the gates, and they are opened, preceding you, and 2 well-dressed men are beckoning the cart through and point a direction for you to continue.
Adele says to the lady, "You have our deepest condolences. if there's anything that we can do to make things easier for you during this very difficult time, please do not hesitate to let us know.
She just nods. So after a couple of minutes of riding through the Thurian rest, you come to us. She beckons for you to come to a stop. And whoever's driving the cart, I assume you stop.
Yep.
She says it's this mausoleum here, and points to one which has several people stood outside it, their heads bowed in what looks like grief or respect. You aren't 100% sure.
Adele hops off the cart and goes round to the lady and offers her his hand to dismount.
She accepts your hand and dismounts from the cart.
Meta
Adele.
is kind of keeping an eye on things and ready to palm a blade because, as far as he's concerned, no one told these people we were coming.
Yep.
So he's like, okay, why?
Adele gestures to the guards with a "you can come and take the casket" sort of expression. He certainly isn't going to expect his captain to.
So a couple of pallbearers actually come and collect the coffin from the cart. It seems that in your preparations to leave, she'd made word to somebody who'd sent a runner ahead of you, being somewhat faster on one single horse than the nag that's pulling this cart. The body is placed into their family crypt, and she says, "We'll be having a funeral at another time, of course. We're not going to have it just now, as he's just arrived. We're going to lay him in state for a short period before we have a family funeral. Thank you very much for returning him to me."
Right. Can I roll a streetwise roll to see if there's anything dodgy with this? Because this is like alarm bells.
What alarm bells?
Well, don't know religion stuff, so it's kind of okay, we've brought him. You're not going to have the funeral now. You're going to do it in a few days and leave it in rest, in a coffin, in a place that, as far as Murta's concerned, anyone could come to.
No, it's guarded.
Yeah, but you know.
Okay, go for it. Streetwise roll.
Yeah.
You have no idea of the burial traditions of the Thurians, nor how long or if at all somebody would be laid to rest.
Meanwhile, Adele simply inclines his head and says, "Of course, milady. And again, if there is anything that we can do, even if it is escorting you back home, we would be more than happy to."
She says, "Well, I appreciate the offer. I have people for that."
Okay.
She says, "If you
Well,
would not mind, I'd like to be alone now."
Well, seeing as she already dislikes me, I'm going to be the one to say it. Obviously, retrieving this coffin took some considerable expense on our part. There was talk of a reward.
Of course, the Cadoran would be thinking only of his purse.
I'm going to rest my left hand on my saber. And
Adele shoots Constantine a absolutely black look and half steps between in front of the lady and his captain. It's very theatrical, more so than Adele usually is.
Okay.
I believe it's the lady's move now.
She would say, "How much did Raleigh promise you?"
50 gold, ma'am.
She looks at Murta and says, "Well, I appreciate your candor," and walks over to her servant, whispers something in their ear, and then she retreats into the crypt to be with where her husband is laying in state. The servant approaches Murta and hands him a coin purse, and then says, "Respectfully, you should probably leave."
Adele turns heel and marches from the tomb, his head high, as if he's on a parade ground.
Murta does that like little weird toss thing that you see them do in movies to like kind of check the weight.
Yep.
Is he happy with the weight?
No.
He's not happy with the
He's not happy with the weight. The servant says, "Just between you and me, the Sheridans were very good friends of theirs. They weren't particularly happy that Raleigh was cut down when he could have been spared in that duel. Honour's one thing, but butchering a man is another."
I look him straight in the eye and go, "Mate, I don't know nothing about how these nobles deal with each other. What I know is this purse is lighter than we were promised."
Well, that's all you're getting, I'm afraid.
I hear music in my head.
Murta begins to grin and goes, "Right, as I said, I don't know how nobles do things. I want my fucking money. Go and get my fucking money, or I'm going to make this funeral feel really shit."
Intimidation.
Feet point to boost.
Yep, cool. You know that feet point to boost may actually end up with a worse result than you actually think.
I know, but it's
I get
tradition. It's traditional.
I'm just saying.
Which of my stats would you like me to use, Tom?
It's up to you.
Because since I'm doing the whole,
you choose how you're trying to intimidate this person, and I decide how effective they are by that type of intimidation.
I was checking if you would prefer me to use a particular type.
No.
I think physique would probably be.
I will occasionally ask you, I want you to use strength.
Yeah. So you want me to use strength for?
No. I could occasionally do that.
Okay. I'm using physique is my plan then.
Yeah, if you're trying to intimidate somebody by, doing what Bishop does in Alien with a knife, that's going to require agility.
Yeah. I've never watched Alien.
All right.
And that was a crit, so I get my feet point back.
Hold their Bishop is an android. He puts his hand over another person's hand and then starts playing the game of knives where you stab in between the fingers. And he does it faster and faster and faster, and because he's an android, eventually you can't even see his hand moving anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so
I was actually planning to use that at some point, and having never seen Alien, that now makes me kind of want to watch Alien.
So you terrify this servant, and they shout for guards who are stood right next to you.
I look at the guards and go, "Look, we were promised money. We've not been given money. As far as I'm concerned, that's a breaking of contract."
The guards look at you and say, "Breaking of contract, not given money. You were handed a coin purse. I don't see any. I don't see any contract. Leave." With all their hands rested on their weapons.
How many guards?
You can see 3.
And how are they armed and armoured?
Armoured. You can tell that they are wearing some sort of plate. All seem to have swords. You can see holsters as well.
Right, well, Adele is outside.
You're all outside.
Oh. Okay, well, he's not looking. He's wandered off to look at the graves.
I'm not exactly being quiet. Constantine, would you like to step in, or is Murta going to continue being Murta?
Constantine is like just roiling under the surface, really genuinely very pissed off. And if something, if he's gonna let Murtar just do what Murtar does and see what happens.
Murta starts kind of eyeing up each of the guards, rolling the pouch in his hand,
Mm-hmm.
tenses his jaw a bit, and
They look like seasoned veterans to you.
yeah, I was doing a quick thing.
Adele looks up
kind of
and says,
grudgingly-
"How
he
much
kind-
are we short by?"
Wait. Sorry, Colin. He
Sorry.
was saying something.
Didn't catch it.
Begrudgingly turns around and goes, "I'll make sure to remember Furry and honor," and flick the bird at the servant, and walk off.
Okay.
The coin decided that Murta wasn't going to try and murder people.
Fair enough.
He goes, sits on the cart, opens the pouch, and actually starts counting how much they've been given.
You've been given 30 gold.
30.
Yeah.
All right.
So Adele looks over and says, "How much are we short by?"
Close the pouch and go, 20 gold. I turn to the captain and go, "This is exactly enough to pay for that rifle you bought."
Rifle was 29.
All right, it's 1 gold more than that rifle you bought. And this is why I got a bit shirty. And tosses the pouch to the captain, since the captain is owed the money.
Constantine's going to toss it back and says, "I can wait."
Good answer, boss.
Adele
Kind-
says, "This isn't the place to discuss our finances. We should leave."
I'm gonna I'm just staring these guards in the eye. Just before I leave, I'm gonna swear in Cadoran and spit on the floor at their feet.
They just stare at you professionally.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So where are you going?
Adele suggests very calmly that before we head back to base, we should probably return the cart. Perhaps a long drive will do us all some good.
Murta agrees.
I should mention that it's late. It's late in the evening now.
Let's go back to the inn. Let's park the cart up, and let's stay in the suite. Should be.
Okay. So when you get back to the inn, there is no stabling at the inn. They don't take horses.
Well, there's no. The ferry's still running.
Nope, the ferry is closed for the night.
Coincidentally, I am picking up the pitcher as we're driving off and continuing to drink it as we drive back to the inn, muttering under my breath about fucking Furians.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, so you're back at the inn. There are no, there's nowhere to park up the wagon for the night here.
Well, maybe someone has a shed or a barn we could encroach upon.
Alternatively, We could all get a bit of food and sleep in the car. Does it look like it's going to rain?
Do a survival check.
I do not have that, so perception?
Yep.
Cool. Finally, a below average roll.
You think that, given the fact that it's early spring, it probably wouldn't be great to sleep in the cart.
Adele says, I'll ask the innkeep if he knows of any local barns.
Ask the innkeeper in general if he knows anywhere where we can stable a horse and cart.
We know a place we can stable a horse and cart. There's a stables owned by What's-a-Face.
That's in Hospice Island.
Yeah, that was my recollection.
Ah, right. My mistake.
So
Adele shakes his head, unable to believe that we're actually arguing over stabling a cart.
Yep, same. Adele, I assume, is going in to ask about this?
Yes.
Okay, so you run in, walk up to the barkeep. He's serving somebody. You have to wait like 2 minutes. When you eventually get his attention, he says, "How can I help?"
Well, sir, your ale was fantastic, and I'd like to order another pitcher. Also, we happen to have a cart and a horse which is in need of stabling. Would you know of anywhere, or perhaps a local barn, somewhere where we can house
says
it?
Merrick Stables is the only place in South Shore.
Merrick.
And
Merrick,
would
just
you
south
provide directions? Just south. How far south?
You won't miss it.
Wonderful. And finally, that suite, is it vacant or still occupied?
It's still occupied.
What a pity. Well, thank you. I don't suppose you happen to have any other rooms which are open or available?
He said, "Yeah, I've got two rooms and plenty of space in the bunkhouse."
Wonderful. Well, the bunkhouse is of no interest to us, but if you could hold a moment, I will confer with my companions and I will get back. And so Adele takes the picture back out, the new picture, and he relays this to everyone. And he says, Merrick Stables, south, can't miss it. They've got a couple of rooms or the bunkhouse. I think we've all deserved a good night's rest. What do you say, Captain?
What are his rates?
Adele simply shrugs.
I'm going to GM this and tell you that he told you the rates because the saving time. The bunk room is 1 copper per night. The small rooms are 5 silver pieces each per night.
How many can go to a room?
1.
So we're like a gold and a half, or in the bunk room.
No. There are only 2 rooms spare.
Yeah, which means
Adele
someone is not.
turns to Murtagh and says, "This is where we play rock, paper, scissors."
I look at them or go, or I'm not as bothered as you posh boys, and I'll sleep in the bunkhouse.
Fair.
Keep your hands on your blades.
I grin slightly and then go, we could rock, paper, scissors to see if you two go in the bunkhouse.
Adele looks at Constantine and then shakes his head and says, "It has been too long of a day to even go there."
Murta shrugs.
So,
Let's go and drop off the cart.
Yeah.
So heading south through the village, lots of single-story wooden buildings. A lot of them are in fairly bad condition. Some of them are in better condition, but mostly fairly bad condition. You come across a large set of stables that dominates the southern portion of the town. It's a fairly expansive stabling business. It looks pretty big. but it's fairly quiet. A little bit too quiet, really, for the size of it.
Adele feels a headache coming on, and he simply looks at Constantine and says, "Would you like me to do the honors or Murtagh?"
I'll do the honors.
So as your cart pulls up, you're approached by a bloke in his probably late 40s.
Right.
He hails you and points your cart towards one of the buildings.
Okay. I'm going to ask him, do you do lodging?
He said, "I assumed that's what you were here for, so
Yeah.
you can park it over there."
What about for us?
No, just horses. He said the innkeep would be mighty sore if I started cutting into his business.
You, I'm sure, would be sore if he cut into yours.
Which he doesn't, so
Yeah. Okay.
At least he doesn't cut into my business.
Who does cut into?
Well, it's not exactly a secret, I suppose. The Struck brothers who run the ferry.
Ah, I see.
See, it wasn't too bad when they just ran the ferry, but they bought up the stables on Hospice Island, and they started offering people a free ferry ride across to Five Fingers if they agreed to stable their horses in Five Fingers. See, people, what they used to do when they were coming here as merchants or tourists, they used to just stable here with us and just go across the ferry on foot and use, hand carts or just walk around the city. But now people have taken to taking their horses across to Five Fingers with them because of the free stabling. It's cutting into my business something awful.
That's unfortunate for you. Have you decided to do something about it?
There's not really much I can do about it.
At this, Adele presses his hand against his head and just says, looking straight at the captain, straight in the eyes, "No." And then he says in Laeli's deja vu, burning ferries, "No."
Did you catch that woman's name, Adele?
Did I catch the lady's name? Did the barkeep ever tell us? Or Riley? Riley must have told us the family name.
Do an intelligence test. You don't know her name.
We don't know her name. Right, well, we're going to have to find out. We'll have to ask the barkeep back.
Adele simply says, "Do you have something in mind, sir?" Again in Laeli's, so the stable master won't, eavesdrop. Assuming he doesn't know Laeli's, which he...
I'm going to actually start just having a chat with the stable master, just being like, "So how do you look after horses then? Only recently started to come across really seeing them that much. So what's it like looking after them? They seem all right."
Is this actual chat or just distraction chat?
Actual chat. Murta is genuinely interested in horses.
He tells you all about horses. He's very, very keen on horses. He tells you that this is a fourth generation stabling business. You know, his daddy worked here, his daddy's daddy worked here, his daddy's daddy worked here. They've all been the runners of this stable. It's been in the family for, 4 generations. He's the 5th generation of stable hands. He tells you all about stabling and horses.
Murder, after approximately 5 minutes, starts to slightly regret asking. And starts kind of
completely
nodding.
oblivious to your disinterest.
Oh, it's not disinterest, it's just like, oh, this is a lot of info. And just starting to nod and go, interesting.
He continues to talk to you about horses.
So they've got 4 legs, you say? And horseshoes. They're made of iron?
Most of them, yeah. Most of them have got 4 legs. Occasionally, some of them have got 3 legs. Very interesting, those ones. They require special care. Blah, 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 blah.
What's the average number of legs? No, I'm not going to get involved.
Average number of legs would be 4.98.
So some horses have more than 4 legs.
Sorry, 3.98. Come on. Allow my dyslexia a mild break.
That one would be dyscalculious, surely.
And the rest.
All of the disses.
Yes.
Who are you?
All of the brain problems.
Yep, I entirely know that feeling, Tom, as you know.
It just reminds me again of Futurama, when it's like, Fry, and you've got that brain thing. I already did. So anyway, shall we resume?
Sorry, yes.
I believe Adele is speaking to Constantine, and Constantine is going to reply.
Constantine is going to just reply and saying, I'm not being undercut. I'm not forgetting this. We have other things to do, but I'm not going to forget this.
You know, sir, if we go around making enemies of all of the nobles of this place, they're going to run us out. It might be better simply to let this one slide. Maybe we can find additional favor and additional work by building our reputation rather than seeking vendettas. After all, look at me. I'm Laelise. If I held on to every vendetta, why, I would surely go mad.
And not be able to speak to him. You know, what with him being Cadoran. So at this point, I would like intelligence rolls and a streetwise roll from Murta.
Okay.
So Constantine muses on his annoyance at being undercut and considers who actually agreed on the sum of 50 gold.
Okay.
Never was it said to you that the person involved had agreed to pay you 50 gold. Raleigh had said that he would ensure that you were paid 50 gold.
Alan, the player, recognizes the difference. Murta, the character, would not see the difference.
But you would all recognize that she asked you, how much did he say you would be paid? As in, she didn't know.
Right.
Right. And yet thanked me for my candor. Interesting.
Adele comments, she did say they were extremely close friends with Riley, so it's possible that that perhaps they are taking his unfortunate demise a little more hard than perhaps honor requires.
He was a coward and a fool, and he deserved everything he got.
I'm not disagreeing. But she is a lady, sir, and you know how their feelings can be sometimes, I assume.
You've never met a Cadoran woman, have you?
Well, if you would do me the honor of introducing me to one, then perhaps Lael would not have fallen.
Vomits in GM.
Adele is paying Constantine a compliment.
Yep, vomits in GM because of that.
Right.
So he says the fee to stable your horse will be 1 silver per day.
Okay.
And the
Adele.
cart. Does that include the cart?
Yeah, the carts are free because they don't really require any upkeep from them.
Right.
Okay.
So, silver. That's 11 silver. So 11 silver, 2 coppers for the night, if we're sticking to all of it and I'm just sleeping in the bunkhouse.
I'm adding this information to Merrick Stables for you so you can reference it later.
Adele continues in Laelies to Constantine and says, look, this place seems nice, but do we really want to get involved with a big company? If they go out of business, sad as it is, having overheard they were 4th generation, there is little we can do. Unless, of course, we recruit them to our headquarters and give them the stables there, if we could afford it.
I'm not suggesting we do anything, but it's nice to know what's going on.
It seems to be the same thing everywhere. The strong rule and the weak don't.
Yeah, but we have a duty to protect the weak.
So again, I put it to you. What would you like to do, sir? Whatever
Duty
you
to protect
decide,
the weak,
I'm behind you.
Unless you think
I'd like to go back to the inn, and I'd like to have... Because, as far as I'm aware, so far this campaign, Constantine has not had a drink yet.
Ah, well, Adele actually brought a second picture.
Let's go to the inn for the night.
As we're walking back and you two are talking in Laelies, Murta eventually goes, right, lads, eventually you're going to have to teach me that language or I'm just going to think you're being rude.
Very good.
Adele turns to Murtard and says, rock, paper, scissors, and he starts listing each of their names in Laelies. And then he takes out money and starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeats it in Laelies.
Tom, do I magically learn Laelies?
Definitely not. But roleplay wise, you can now, if you decide your character is paying enough attention, you would now know those things.
Yeah, it's learning languages is always useful for what my job is.
But I'm definitely not giving you fluency in a language because he did 20 minutes of teaching.
I'm aware. Yeah. I was fucking with you.
Oh yeah, I know. And I'm just like actually giving you what you actually will now know.
And then
Yeah,
Adol starts singing nursery rhymes in Laelies.
At which point Murta does turn off. It's just like, okay. Start singing.
Adele
start singing shanties in. Start singing shanties in Shard.
Two can play at this game.
I'm going to turn to Murtar in Ordic and say, what languages do you speak?
I speak Ordic, and I speak. I don't know what you guys call it.
Shard. Everyone would call it Shard.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. But
Yeah, no, it's
No.
just called Shard.
Cool. It's
Okay.
Shard.
I'll teach you Leolese if you teach me Shard.
He thinks about it and goes, Deal! Spits on his palm of his hand and holds his hand out.
Right, now this is where I can GM voice for a second. So in terms of character progression, officially you can gain, as a level up, you can gain a language.
Yeah.
It is one
No,
of
I'm
the
aware.
choices. It is one of the choices. Now,
Yeah.
as I've told you before with things like lore, I do require that the players role play some sort of, so like if you want lore cricks, I'm going to require you to spend time in a library or like some way of actually explaining how you know this shit rather than just going, I gained 2 XP. I now know Kung Fu. You know, Matrix reference.
No,
there for you.
that's fair enough. But I like the idea. I like the idea. First of all, I seriously considered that. I did seriously consider when I got an extra skill, learning 5 cant,
Right.
and then
Here's the thing.
or
I personally do not require you to actually, because the level ups are fairly, especially the one that language is one of the choices, they're fairly like sought after. So as long as you're role playing it enough that you're like occasionally spending time learning it in between missions and such, I'm not going to require you spend your level up on it.
the other thing I quite like, and this is general comment for the group, I quite like the idea that the group will eventually all be able to speak Leolese, so that we can have conversations between us that are not
Privy to
like can't be overheard or can't be interpreted by anyone else unless there happens to be a Leolese speaker.
Yep. Okay.
There.
So if you want to do that, and Murta is actually committed to it, I will eventually tell you, given like how long you're spending doing it, I'll go, Murta now understands enough. Okay, and it will not require a level up from Murta because I don't really want to waste what could be like him getting a skill that you want.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
This is just me being nice, GM.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is nice GM stuff. It's cool.
And
Rare.
if Adele gets involved on this as well, and if Bones gets involved in this as well, then like we could all learn. All of us could have Leolese. All of us could have Shard.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully Kadoran as well.
Eventually.
And Mulga Troll. And all of these fancy, fancy languages everyone is speaking.
I doubt you guys would learn Mogatrol.
Probably learn Signarin from
He'd know
Our Troll.
Signarin, definitely.
Yeah.
Because he was in the Signarin military. Anyway, so you're back at the inn.
Gonna sit drinking this pitcher with the other two.
Okay.
I'm gonna suggest we eat because we have not eaten all day.
So one of you is going to beckon to one of the servant girls that's walking around carrying trays of food. I assume you're going to ask for food for 3.
Yeah.
Okay. She brings over what is the dinner for that night, which is essentially like meat and 2 veg. So roast meat and some vegetables and tubers.
Is it horse?
How the fuck would you know?
He's Leolese. He eats horse.
He does? I don't think that's a
He's
thing.
Leolese.
I don't think Leolese people eat horses.
Well, he was raised on horse as a delicacy.
That's kind of weird.
This is Adele we're talking about.
Okay, cool. Okay, no, it's not horse.
More importantly, is it nice?
Yeah, it's fairly good food.
Grand. How much did that cost?
That will be 1 silver for all 3 of you.
For all 3 of us.
Yeah,
Neat.
all 3 of you. Oh, hi, defensive stance. Yep, more horse info is needed. So you've agreed on. You haven't agreed officially with the barkeep of your lodgings.
I guess we should probably do that. In fact, I'm going to be really cheeky and ask him how much it would cost to kick the people out of the suite and for us to have it.
Okay. He says that doesn't happen. I'm not moving people, especially not them.
I kind of go, ah, right.
He says, are you guys all looking for accommodation, all three of you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
He says, okay, that will be 3 copper then, please.
I think so. Have you not got any rooms left?
No, they're all gone now.
All right. Fair enough. I turn to the other two and look.
In the weekend, the woodsmen are in.
Yeah, fair enough. I turn to the nobles and kind of grin.
They come in once a week to drink and gamble and let off some steam.
Okay. I look to the other two and go, looks like you are bunking with me, boys.
Adele says, Saturday. Drinking and fighting and fighting.
Wrong pub, love.
I'm going to say Saturday in Laylee's.
Oh, by the way, just so you all know, for any IKR and Iron Kingdom's absolute mega heads, the days of the week in the Iron Kingdoms aren't actually the same as ours, but I cannot be bothered remembering them, so we're using our ones.
Yeah. For one, their week is like 10 days long or something. Yep. It's really weird.
Yep. And I cannot be doing with it. I have done as much as I can to reduce the bookkeeping for myself.
Yeah.
Because fuck that, honestly. Yeah, so only the bunk room is available now because you dallied.
So 3 copper.
Yep, 3 copper.
And this.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going. I was just going 3 copper from the. I talk aloud a lot. Don't worry about if I'm like muttering.
No, if it helps you understand what's going on.
Adele turns to Constantine and he says, so I noticed that you were speaking to the ferry chaps earlier with the guns. What were you talking about?
Turns out that fish that attacked us has attacked others too.
Shall we go hunt it down? Get a reward? Mount it on our wall?
I'm not going to do another thing where we're not guaranteed a reward.
To which Murta goes, and now you're learning. Anyway.
Alright, so what's the plan? And he's speaking in Laili still. The docks and the missing members after we return the cart?
Let's return the cart. Let's see if anything else comes up. We've got some bookkeeping to do back at the chapter house. Tomorrow, once we've sorted all of that out, tomorrow, we can talk about what to do next. But I think we should investigate the docks because that might just be something bigger than we thought it was.
Murta is going to take the pouch of the treasury money off his belt, pass it to the captain and go, you might want to hold on to this for a bit. Turns around and starts looking for the gambling table.
But
you spot it quite easily.
Wicked. I'm going to wander over and see what they're playing.
They're playing a kind of Five Fingers version of poker.
All right. Murta will see if they're happy for someone else to join the pot.
They are. So there is an empty spot at the table. So Murta can sit down and join if he wishes.
Yeah. So what's the buy-in, lads?
They say it's 1 silver.
Cool. I'll put a silver down straight away and go, let's do this.
Okay. So the way this works is, and then they start listing off gambling things like the thingies are 6, these are I, these are monkey doors. I don't know, all sorts of gambling terms.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I'm not a gambler. I see it as poor person tax. That's how I see gambling. That's just my personal point of view, so I don't know much about it. In terms of the RPG, there is a skill called gambling, and you can make rolls using it, and I am happy to facilitate what that equates to in terms of money gained or money lost.
Yep. I know you can also cheat, and that you get bonuses if you're familiar with people. Obviously, I'm not familiar with these people.
Yep.
And Murta is not going to cheat.
Because it's the first hand.
Not just because it's the first hand.
Fair enough.
It doesn't mean he'll never cheat. It's just I'm not choosing to cheat on the first hand.
So I'm inclined to believe that you do not have the gambling skill.
I do not have the gambling skill, but you can use it untrained without penalties, and it's perception based.
That's just that's all I was going to say.
Cool.
But if you don't have it, it's just base perception rolls. So make your first gambling roll at your first hand.
Not very good.
So this hand goes fairly poorly. At least one of the other people at the table folds. Murta stays in, believing he has a fairly decent hand. But unfortunately for him, one of the members at the table had an ace and a 10, so Murta loses his 1 silver at this point.
I'll do it again.
So he goes, the bloke who just beat you goes, got money to spend then, have you, stranger?
I'm like, nah, but what's the point of this? You can't take it to the grave with you. Puts another one down and goes, let's have another go.
He nods in a kind of respect and indicates to the dealer to deal again. This time it's just you and him.
Alright, so 1 silver each, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So this time he looks to you and indicates that he wants to raise.
I'll raise.
Okay, roll again. So he looks at you and says, I'm calling you bluff, I'm going to raise again.
I'll raise again, and I'll spend a feat point.
So
lucky I feated because the third dice was a 5.
Yeah. So at this point, the bloke looks at you and goes, "Let's see him," and turns over his cards, and he has a 7 and a 2, and you have 2 8s. So,
I'll win then.
Yep.
So that's
your 3 silver.
Yep. So I get my effectively the 1 back and gain 2.
Yep, basically.
Yeah. So I'm assuming this in like actual time, in game time, would be like 30 odd minutes, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So if
Murta
you guys want to do something.
So while this is going on, Adele looks at Constantine and says, the thought hasn't crossed your mind to break into the suite and go through their belongings, has it? I would hope that we wouldn't stoop so low.
There's a reason that we have laws.
That's not an answer.
It is an answer.
Okay.
And then Adele asks Constantine if he knows the Bialys equivalent of bridge.
Yes, of course he does.
He spent time there.
Spent time in Lale. Yeah, he knows. In Eastern Umbre,
Do you have a deck of cards?
I don't.
No,
So you have to borrow one off.
but they can talk about it.
Okay. You spend a
At the end
fine
of-
evening talking about cards.
At the end of that half hour, I kind of knock on the table and go, think I need to get an early night though, boys. But good gambling. And I hold out my hand and kind of clap my hand to the guy who gambled with me, and I go, have a good evening, fella.
Make a strength roll.
He's actually going to try and do this, is he? Okay, then.
No, I just want you to make a strength roll. I haven't told you why.
It's not exactly my strong point.
I know, but he says, you seem like a pretty straight up kind of guy. If you're ever in particularly after some coin, we are looking for more woodsmen down at the logging camp. We lost a few of our number recently, so we're a bit short-handed. Got timber shipments to make and all that.
Kind of like, I'm up a bit and go, well, not a woodsman, say, but I am part of a group that might be able to. How come you lost some people?
We don't know. They just never came back from the woods.
Yeah. I kind of nod to him and go, thanks for the info, mate. And I go and tell the captain and Adele and ask for the treasury purse back.
It's pretty nice of you as a potential, like, I mean, I know your character's not actually a thief, but like, he was responsible enough to not bring the treasury. I just want that noted in the captain's log. Like, he went gambling without the purse. Like, I've role played groups where they've spent the group purse. I just want that acknowledged.
It's acknowledged. And also, when Murtar relays that story to me, I'm gonna tell it him back in Laley's, just because.
I'm going to look at him and go, mate,
Yeah.
I'm half cut and I'm half asleep. Now's not the time.
Fair.
Adele says, do you think... No, there's no chance that it could have anything to do with what's happening on the docks, do you?
Well, it might, and it's a potential lead, but let's investigate the docks first.
So you want that added to your job tracker, I assume.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that for you later.
Adele says, and I think it's reached the point in the evening where we should undertake the fine Laeli's tradition of telling each other ghost stories.
Okay, and at this point, I think it would be good if everybody took a real life break.
Yeah, it's good, Joe.
Perfect.
So, if you guys want to take a break, how long do you guys want?
15?
Yeah, 15.
Same
good.
rules as normal apply. If you're all back before 15 and want to continue, we will. So if not, I'll see you back here at 10 past.
Perfect.
Cool.
At this point, we at Grey Lanterns would like to remind you that we're not sponsored by anybody. If you'd like to sponsor the stream, please very much do. I need cash. Just cash. Just hard cash, please. Give it to me. So,
I'd like to talk about our Lord and Saviour Menoth.
yeah, I'm not so keen on our Lord and Savior anymore.
Is this the point where I actually offer Adele's ghost stories in exchange for real currency? I don't think so. 'Twas a dark and stormy night.
Save it.
We
for
need
after the
Birchwell
break.
bones for
Save
this.
Save it for after the break.
Oh, Birchwell bones, we miss you. Come back to us soon.
Oh well, hopefully he does. So yeah, in real terms, the Grey Lanterns are sponsored by Rotten Hull Grinder Meat. Rotten Hull Grinder Meat. A callback to episode 1 or 2, I forget.
Brought to you by Mograt.
See you soon.
Right.
Oh, hi.
You right, Tom?
You alright, mate? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not painting very much tonight.
Oh,
All my paint's down here, ready to do it, but I just haven't been able.
I think that's is that a good thing?
Well, it means I'm more interested in this than.
Well, I guess you won't want to see what I've just taken a picture of then.
Take a picture of.
What I've painted.
what have you got through? Is it the decorations?
Well, because I'm doing the Monstrous May event, I decided to paint the decorations for Fiona
Right.
alongside the Gatorman style bone void archon.
Right. Yeah.
So I've just shared two pictures in our group chat. One is what it was at the start of the stream, and one what it is now. I'm 3 layers in.
Oh, that's cool.
So basically,
Yeah.
can you see it?
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, how I paint bone is I start off with a mediumish brown, and then I slowly I paint that on, and then I add like a drop of bleached bone, paint that on, then add a drop more of bleached bone, paint that on. So it just becomes more and more bone. But every time I do a new layer, I'm less strict about getting it on every part.
Right. Yeah. I see what you mean.
So each layer actually becomes quicker.
Right. Yeah.
But then the last layer, where I've because I stop adding bone and I start adding white, the last layers actually take longer because I'm very strict on where I put it.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
And then it will be on to painting the candles, and then the bone archon is basically done. I might put some green ink in the eyes of all the skulls. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh. I'd need to see it before.
Yeah, well, I'll do that. I'm not going to be doing green ink tonight. But yeah, that's where I am. How have you felt today's stream has gone? Session has gone so far.
It's been fun.
Yeah, I wanted to kill that woman.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Really angry about that.
Are you actually angry as a person or as a character?
There's character.
Okay. Why?
Well, because all of the tenets of nobility were followed, and she still had the arse about it.
Yeah, because you killed her friend.
And then she had the temerity to say, "Oh, you could have given him mercy." No, it was to the death.
It doesn't mean you have to do it.
And it does.
He was on the floor.
I'm not sure he was on the floor before I ran him through.
You still killed him.
As I remember, he wasn't actually on the floor, but he was wounded. I'm pretty sure if you'd smacked him over the head, he would have gone down. But, you know, Constantine is a military officer.
Even without, you killed her friend.
People are gonna be upset by shit like that.
Well,
It's
he
like,
was a
Murta was stinking furious.
The only one who didn't seem to be mad was Adele, which is strange given his former reputation.
Also,
well, you know what, Adele? I wouldn't necessarily be averse to you raising a husband from the dead. Just saying.
But just
Murta has ideas.
Just FYI, she didn't arrange for the job or the payment.
Right. Yeah, I got that. I got the feeling that you were saying that the 20 gold would have been out of Riley's own pocket.
No, the entire 50 gold would have been out of his pocket.
He was actually asking us to do it as a favour for his friends.
Yep.
And then offered to pay us for it. It was a job from him.
Yep.
But Murta, as I said, Murta would not make a distinction.
No.
He would see it as we've been stiffed on the payment.
Yep.
I was honest about the payment. I told him straight up what the payment was. We've been stiffed. but he did also feel slightly vindicated in his rant last week of half the time they won't give you the full money. Came true.
Yes.
So, which was like him turning around and going, "Told you."
Look, guys, I'm most unused to Adele being the voice of reason. This is new territory for me.
Yeah, it is.
Thing is, she's insulted Constantine's nobility, which is a big deal.
Oh, Cadorans. Okay, so are we still streaming?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Okay, well, I won't say what I was going to say then. It
it's
can wait
more
till
of a big
afterwards.
deal to turn it off and turn it on again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're all
Hey,
back. I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So, you guys were discussing whether you were going to go straight to bed or.
No. Adele wants to tell them a ghost story.
Okay.
And Murta goes, "Can we just go to bed?"
Adele gives him a harsh look and says, "All right, go ahead. I won't be offended the next time you want to share something about your repertoire of tales."
I look
I'll
at
be
him
sure
and
to.
go. I look at him and go, "I don't talk about my home, do I?" And just leave him with that and walk off.
Adele rolls his eyes and comments to
Constantine.
Constantine, commoners.
Constantine's going to put a hand on Adele's shoulder and say, "Go on, brother, tell your tale."
There was an ancestor of mine whose name was. It escapes me, but there was a jack he faced, and this jack was not powered by a cortex in the way we would know it, but by the soul of a man. And this jack, well, it gave my. And he pauses and says the word ancestor with some hesitation, as if he's not entirely certain. This ancestor of mine, some difficulty, and I remember fighting it, and it spoke like a man, and we found that it was a man inside a jack. Can you imagine that? At this point, the story doesn't sound like your average ghost story, but more like a strange recollection. And then he trails off as if he's not entirely sure where to go with it.
Constantine is going to say, "I have heard tales of a jack in the south, powered only by the will of God. So anything can be believed."
Yes, it occurred to me because of, well, this device, this soul cage, and he's still speaking in Laolese, which claimed Riley, at least I believe it claimed Riley, is unnerving.
I understand what you're saying. I think it's time we turned him.
Okay.
You know, it's strange with all of these strange disappearances and this soul stuff going on. I see why you would take faith in the creator, why it would bring you some relief.
Deception roll, please.
Deception?
He's a Faramite. He just
No,
said,
he's being sincere. He says, "I understand why you
"Oh, okay,
could
fair
take."
enough." Okay, then you worked around it. Go for it.
I actually thought you'd said detection.
No deception, because I was like, "You lying lie who lies."
But you only use deception when you are lying. And Adele continues. So I have heard tales that the men of people to the south, those we were fighting, they guide souls onto the light of the creator. And he sounds a little uncertain, as if he isn't entirely clear on his dogma or doctrine.
Into the city of man on Urkain.
That's where they go.
When a Menite
Well-
dies, he is, if he is worthy enough, he goes to the city of Man, where he fights with the Creator against the Devourer for the rest of eternity.
It's like peak paradise, that.
Adele looks considering for a moment and says, well, with all due respect, with Riley being a coward the way he was, a craven man, well, maybe it was best that he isn't fighting alongside those who are worthy.
Something tells me he wasn't a Menite. It's not like he spent his life in service.
Adele just goes very quiet and nods, and then he stands up and says, well, perhaps we should turn in. I would love to hear more about your homeland and how you were raised. And since we're exchanging tongues, then perhaps a smattering of Kodoran would also serve us.
Of course.
Okay, so
I bid him good night in Ordic, and then in Leylis, and then in Kodoran.
Adele returns it in all three.
I had
And
no
he-
idea that I would end up GMing Duolingo. Just GM things. It's like, yeah, just didn't expect this. Okay, fair enough. So you turn in for the night. The bunkhouse is dark by the time you go in. You find yourselves wandering. There is a single candle by the door, which lights the room enough to allow you to see vacant bunks. So presumably you pick vacant bunks. Have you got preferences to location, towards door, away from door?
Away from door at the back. Adele will take first watch.
Oh, you're agreeing on a watch before going to sleep.
Well,
Murta has drank
Murta's
quite
already-
a lot and is actually crashed out on like.
yeah, I was going to say, I don't imagine it would be much good for a watch.
He's just crashed out towards the back of the room. You occasionally hear in his sleep, "Fucking Thurians."
Fair.
Okay, then just the two of us on watch.
So you're actually
Okay.
keeping watch.
Well,
Yeah.
we're in an inn. We should be fine.
Mhm.
I know that's
Just
That's
letting
fair,
you
so-
know that sleeping only half the night. Tomorrow your rolls, every single roll will be at -1 from lack
right.
of sleep.
Let's just get a proper night's sleep.
Okay. So you all go to sleep for the night, and nothing happens. You wake up to the sound of the Final Fantasy waking up music, as is tradition in every RPG I play. And if you don't know what that is, just Google it. So you wake up, go downstairs to the main room, and you notice that all of the woodsmen are already up eating a fried breakfast.
As we walk out, I kind of turn to the other two and go, "We're going to get breakfast or head straight out."
Sorry, I missed that.
We're going to get breakfast or head straight out.
Let's get breakfast. It won't do us any harm. I hope.
That is silver between all of us again, Tom.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
One silver between all of you.
Are we heading back to headquarters, sir, or are we... I believe you did say headquarters first.
Well, we need to drop Maverick off. I kind of nod over to the woodsman I'd been playing with the night before, just as like a.
You can't spot him.
No.
Nope.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's not there.
Okay. I'm going to say to the captain that we should probably take Mav's card back before we forget about it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do that first.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So,
I will just, before we leave, ask the woodsman. I was playing with a guy last night. Didn't get his name, but don't see him.
a bunch of us have already headed back to the camp to begin work early. Because we're down a few people, we have to have a bit of a hustle on.
All right. Well, best wishes to all of you. Probably catch you all soon.
He just nods and carries on tucking into his fried tomato.
Yeah.
Fried tomatoes are canonically part of breakfast here.
Black pudding as well. Beans on toast.
For our American audience, beans on toast is traditionally part of breakfast. They don't really eat beans the same way we do they?
You know, I haven't actually kept my eye out for any Heinz baked beans. I will have to.
Heinz is an American company. It's based in Pittsburgh.
But I have heard that the obsession with baked beans is more of a British thing.
Used to be a delicacy back in the Industrial Revolution.
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked. So as it is.
What about the history of it?
Sorry?
I know all about Heinz history.
Fair enough.
For some reason, but I'm not going to get started.
Fair enough. So you have your frying to breakfast, and you feel very full and hearty, of good cheer.
Dell saved some of his breakfast for Mograt since he promised that he would bring the gobber food.
Okay. You do that.
Constantine sees this and shakes his head because it's weird.
It's disapproval of his affection for a lower race, as it were.
Yeah.
You really don't like gobbers that much, do you?
Constantine?
Mm.
It's not dislike.
Just doesn't care for
It's loathing.
They wouldn't even know which fork to use.
You know, I saw a gobber at a dinner party once, and he started from the middle and worked out.
Is this in character or out of character? Because I will respond.
I've never seen a gobber at a dinner party. Go on. Let's go.
Alrighty.
Right.
So you head back to the ferry, and you're in
stables get
cart,
the then ferry.
Yep. So you get the cart back. The horse looks like it's been well cared for.
I will toss a personal silver to the stable hand.
He doffs his cap to you, sir.
I will nod approvingly. And I'm going to toss the silver as well.
Adele takes this opportunity to eye the heavens wonderingly and shake his head.
Yep, fair enough. So you head back to the ferry, and within luck, it is looking like it's preparing to leave, but hasn't actually left yet.
Okay.
Let's roll up to the ferry.
Okay. So as you board the ferry, the attendant that's on the dockside says, puts his hand out for the fee to cross.
which is
Same as
a
it was
mighty
last time.
12 silver.
Yep, same as it was last time. Wait, why is it 12 silver?
Well, it's 2 silver each and 3 silver per axle.
Yeah, so it should be 6. Yeah, okay, 12. Yeah. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Maths, it is one of my strengths.
Yep, it's your superpower.
It's not maths, it's counting.
It's a kind of maths.
Anyway,
It's arithmetic.
while we're on the ferry, Adele is going to continue teaching Murta Lealese,
Yep. Fair enough.
starting with how to address your superior officer.
Murta nods along, takes it in, and thinks, I'm never doing that.
Constantine's going to have a chat with one of the men, a different one of the men manning the deck guns.
Okay, cool.
Have you seen anything today?
He just grunts and carries on surveying the water.
He's friendly. Okay. I'm going to wander and try and find the guy that I spoke to yesterday.
Okay, you find him quite easily. It's not a huge vessel.
Ask him the same question.
He said, no, nothing so far.
Well, obviously, let me know if there is anything.
He said, if she comes about, everyone on board will know about it.
Fair enough. And then I'm going to wander back to Linguiscope.
Okay.
At this point, Adele has shifted from how to address your superior officer correctly to how to insult your superior officer and not get in trouble.
At which point, Murta is showing much more interest.
And at the point when Constantine comes over and hears this, shoots Adele a withering glance.
Adele turns to Murtagh and says, would you like to share with our captain what you've learned?
I look at him and go, no, I actually like him.
Big oofs.
I'll turn to Adele in Lealese and say, I see the flower of Lealese nobility perished on the vine.
My dear sir, how else am I supposed to teach him about dueling and insulting? And, you know, if someone in high society tells him that his mother smells like elderberries and his father was a hamster, wait, should that have been his father was a hamster and his mother smelled of elderberries? Then how is he supposed to respond with dignity and decorum?
Constantine's mouth goes open as if to say something, and then he shuts it, nods, and walks off to the side of the boat.
Cool. Yeah, so it's at this point, as you're halfway across the water, that you notice a rather burly-looking gentleman shouting at some of the crew.
Okay, I'm going to get close enough to listen, but I'm not going to get involved.
From what you can hear, it sounds like he's their boss, and he's, instructing them that cart should have been better secured. What if the whole ship were to be struck suddenly? It would fly across the deck. Perhaps it would crush somebody. Think of the problems that would cause us. He hits the boy, and the boy scurries off and starts tying down one of the carts.
I'm going to walk up to him and say, Mr. Strop, I presume.
He says, yes.
How fares things? How's business?
He said, business is good. Events could be better.
Are you talking of this giant hull grinder?
Yeah, it's already attacked our ferry once. It's not something. It's not great. If it attacks the ferry again, there's every chance. You know, it could come to cause actual damages.
'Tis a shame. I spoke to your man before and said, if there's anything we can do to help, you will of course let us know.
Is this something that you are able to deal with?
So we faced down this particular foe before.
And yet
we know
you
what.
survived.
Yes. We got away rather sharpish.
Oh. So you didn't engage the beast?
Only as long as it took to get our men out of the water.
Okay. And how do you think you might be able to assist us?
Well, we have more guns this time, and beckoning at the deck guns as I do it. So maybe our help would be appreciated.
Well, I am offering a reward to anyone that can slay the beast. He looks at the three of you questioningly and says, "Whether or not you'll claim it, I don't know." He said, "But anyone that can provide evidence of a confirmed kill of it will get 200 gold and free passage on my ferries for life. I can assure you of that."
Well, hopefully we won't have to make that kind of action on this voyage.
You're not keen to get paid, eh?
Not keen to get eaten, my friend.
Okay, fair enough. Neither am I.
Fine, okay. And then I'm going to go back to the rail and just going to have a look into the water, see if I can see anything.
Yeah, go for it.
That take?
You spot nothing of interest other than a few mud crabs.
Excellent, right.
Triggered.
They have top hats and monocles if it helps.
What? The mud crab?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Well, unless you don't have that mod installed, then they don't.
Okay.
Skyrim references.
Adele is going to look around and see if he notices anyone who appears to be of nobility or higher breeding.
Okay. Make a roll, Indlissa.
I am rolling terribly today.
It's about average. You rolled a 7, dude. 7 is exactly average. You don't spot anybody that you consider would be of nobility.
Any wealthy merchant type people?
Nope. Just regular travellers.
So Adele turns back to Murtagh and continues instructing him on the finer details of saying, Amster, in the most insulting way possible.
Amazing. So this continues for some time.
Brilliant.
Eventually you get to the other side of the river, and when you do, you depart, and as you head up through Five Fingers, you arrive at Chaser Island, which is where your base is.
And then carry on past to drop off the card.
Okay. So you do.
Adele turns to Constantine while we're traveling and says, "So, presumably you spoke to the ferry shipmaster?"
I did.
And is there perchance a reward for the capture or killing of this foul fish?
If we can provide proof of kill, 200 gold.
Well, isn't that
200.
interesting?
That's what you said, 200.
It is what I said.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should ask any local fishermen if they have any advice on such creatures. And perhaps
Well,
see...
I'm also going to say, and let's get a contract this time.
Yes. Adele agrees, musing.
So
Perhaps other hunters will also
as you are about
want
to
this.
leave the ferry, then you get a contract.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
So Adele continues musing aloud. Perhaps other hunters will also want this. Maybe we could band up with some, since our numbers are few, find a few more good men, women, and split the reward.
Well, let's investigate these docks. I've been meaning to do that for quite some time.
Yep.
Okay. So you head back to Vab's scrapyard to drop off the cart. Vab is pleased to see you and says, "I never actually honestly thought that you'd return with that cart."
I look at her and go, "What? You did a good turn for us. We did a good turn for you. We want to make sure that you know that we're honest, Gov."
She says, "I appreciate it. Honestly, I will have you something soon that you'll be impressed with, I think."
Well, have you had any trouble?
No, no trouble.
Adele comments to Constantine, "It would seem in these regions there is more nobility in a humble gobber than there is in one of our own."
Constantine looks at him like he's got two heads.
Mercer starts swearing about fucking furians again.
Okay. You got anything else for Vab, or are you going back to base?
I think back to base because we wanted to.
Just before we do go, let's have a quick pick over the scrap again, see if we can find anything quickly.
Yeah, sure, go
I
for it.
was about to suggest that.
Just quickly.
Yeah, detection roll each, please.
Oh, for goodness sake.
I guess I'll do it this time.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So Constantine finds a broken repeating pistol.
How broken?
You don't know. It just doesn't look in good condition.
Okay.
You are neither a gunsmith nor a mechanic.
Oh, no.
Adele offers to look at it.
Yeah, have a look.
You look at it and realise that you are neither a gunsmith nor a mechanic either.
Yes.
No, he tries to pretend that he is, though. It's a bit.
And he pretends really, really hard. This does not sway the GM's cold, dead heart.
And so Adele turns to Vab and says, "Have you had any new shipments in?"
Shipments of what?
Oh, any weapons, jacks at all?
She says, I don't tend to get shipments of weapons. I tend to get shipments of mainly scrap metal. I supply quite a few of the local blacksmiths with metal for them to melt down and use again for all sorts of things that they make.
That's interesting.
So
Who are your usual clients?
just all sorts of weapons makers, armor makers.
Do you supply anyone on Chaser Island?
No, nobody on Chaser Island, just people on Bellows Island.
Who was this person giving you trouble?
It was somebody that usually comes to collect the payments for protection money, and I was just a bit late. That's all.
Who's he? Tell us more. Tell us all you can.
You're just gonna have to wait 1 second. I didn't expect you to be asking this.
Oh, Tom.
What, dude? I'm not a fucking encyclopedia.
It's more the you didn't expect us to. It's players. Players will always ask the
Oh yeah,
awkward
I
shit.
don't have a problem with you asking it. I am going to answer you.
I was just saying that. I think that's why Colin was amused.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have
Uh,
only limited preparation time, which is why I prepare things that I think are most likely.
Yeah, no, dude. We get it. Don't worry.
What I mean is, you should always expect us to cause you difficulties.
Oh, I do.
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
Yep.
We aren't the enemy. We are weaving a story together.
That's how I view it.
Evil GM.
I am not evil.
Just a monkey paw.
Evil's just a matter of perspective.
Yep.
Well, it's a matter of perspective, really.
So what I said was true from a certain point of view.
Yeah, but only the Sith deal and absolute.
Except like when the Jedi's use absolutes. Like that one. Because let's be honest, that was an absolute.
Yep.
Jedi
We will be
dominated
here
absolute.
all day.
I'm looking. He gives you a name.
I
of
wasn't
right,
saying.
I'm just gonna I'm gonna yada yada it. She gives you a name of a gang.
Is it the
And then Murta used his streetwise to see if he recognises the gang.
Sorry, what was the question Dave
No.
asked?
Is it the Kip Street Blades?
No. Murta uses streetwise.
Cool.
You recognise that it's a gang typically under the employ of High Captain Hurley.
Right.
Interesting.
Okay. Good to know.
So, Adele turns to Vab and says,
not,
a slightly different...
Sorry, under the employ is the wrong phrasing to use. Aligned with.
Right, yeah.
Is more correct.
Mm.
None of the High Captains really employ the gangs. Gangs would pay allegiance to, or, you know, operate in areas controlled by. Because, like, the Kip Street Blades were affiliated with Wernick. He was not affiliated with them.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning.
Okay. Duly noted.
Okay.
Right, let's go.
Adele says, 1 moment, Captain, and turns to Vab and says, on a slightly different note, do you remember that hull grinder which did a number to your ship?
She says, it was like a day and a half ago, so yes, I remember.
Figure of speech. We're actually putting
but she
together a
doesn't
small
understand your
band.
figure of speech.
Yes, no, Adele says figure of speech. And he says, we're actually putting together a band to hunt the beast. Would such a thing be of interest to you?
She says, certainly not. I nearly lost my ship last time. I will not risk my ship again.
Well, if you know anyone who would be interested, do send them our way. There is a sizable reward for the beast's destruction.
You're going to give her the coordinates to the base?
She already has them. And directions and landmarks
Yeah.
and a name.
She says, a sizable reward, you say?
Yeah.
How sizable?
Don't tell her, don't tell her, don't tell her, don't tell her.
Of course,
So
I tell you
Constantine's
this
just
as
said,
a
don't
friend.
Don't tell her, don't tell her.
Constantine shoots Fab. Constantine shoots Adele the look.
The look.
Like, don't tell her, because the last thing we want is someone else collecting on this bounty before we've had a chance.
And Adele says, I trust you keep this relatively to yourself.
She says, yeah, sure.
Well, if you change your mind or know anyone who can be discreet and would like to join this little venture, we would be interested.
She nods, understanding what your meaning is.
And of course, there would be a headhunter's reward if you were to recommend anyone.
Her
So
pupils dilate.
have yourself a good day.
Okay, cool.
Out of character, did you genuinely think we would just fuck off with the cart?
No.
No?
Out of character, it had crossed my mind, yes.
I mean, in all honesty, I know what Colin's like, and he likes building relationships and people who are beholden to him, or that he can get information or deals from. His general, like, go-to response when we met somebody who was new was, "Are you looking for employment? Do you want to join us?"
Gotta catch them all, eh?
Yeah, so I always assume that he wants to keep every NPC.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, back to the base.
Yep, cool.
Um,
Sorry, deduct one more silver. You had to pay to get across to Bellows Island.
Okay.
Ah, right, okay. I will deduct that from the... We are rapidly spending our way through this money we just made.
Yes, we are.
Life ain't cheap in 5 fingers.
I thought the point is life is cheap in 5 fingers. Just everything else
Being
isn't.
alive isn't cheap in 5 fingers.
Did any of us actually thank Fab for the use of her cart?
Nope.
Yes, that is exactly what I did when we turned up.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So anyway,
Do you think I did? No, of course I didn't.
You head back to your base. Let's go back to base. We are back at base.
Okay. Let's put.
He is in bed. And he's also significantly bigger than that.
Yep.
And Margaret is there to greet you.
Adele says, Margaret, and he holds up a cloth bag with basically a doggy bag, and he tosses it to Margaret.
Margaret looks inside, sniffs, and goes, "Real meat?" and scampers off excitedly.
Margaret, hold on. Did anyone come to visit our base and ask for us?
He says, "Oh, yeah.
Margaret?
He says, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a bloke. He's in the forge with Mac."
Thank you, Margaret. Enjoy your breakfast.
And he scurries off. to eat his breakfast.
Adele turns and simply gives Constantine a look which says, food, loyalty, patronage.
That is a lot to say in a look.
Yeah, I was going to say. Constantine stares at Adele, dead-eyed.
That is the person talking to Mac.
Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in.
Oh, can you not see what I've just shown on the screen?
No, I can see it. It's like a distance.
Okay.
Oh, right. If you're talking about like a character thing, no.
Right, I should be showing something to you all. Why isn't
I'm
that
not
working?
seeing anything.
Why isn't that working? Yeah. I should show it to you. Please don't whistle.
Excuse the technical difficulties.
Yeah, I have headphones in. So anyway, going into the room, you see a man, or basically half of a man, in what looks like a shelf box on wheels.
Is this Two Legs Pete? Formerly Two Legs Pete.
No, this is somebody you've never met before.
Okay.
Hail
and well met, fellow.
Sorry?
Hail and well met.
He says, Watcher. He says, who's in charge these days?
That would be me.
He says, oh, brilliant. He says, I'm Abrams.
Okay. Hello, Abrams. I'm Konstantin Karasimov.
He said, I'm one of the Grey Lanterns.
Are you indeed?
He says, yeah. Or at least I used to be. Till I lost both my legs.
Arrow to the knee?
No.
How did
No,
you lose
it was an axe to the thighs.
From whence did this axe arrive?
It was when we were fighting alongside the Cadorans against Signar.
When and where?
About 10 years ago. Before your time, I'm sure.
10 years ago, 10 years ago, I was studying at the Temple on Kursk.
Yep.
What can we do for you today, sir?
Well, I just come to ask why the Widows, Orphans, and Cripples Fund hasn't been paid.
Okay, I'm going to have to go and get the accounts book.
Yep.
He says,
Mercer will help.
He says Lord Raleigh usually comes round every month and pays it to us without fail.
When were you last paid?
A month ago. Well, more than a month ago, really. It's a couple of days short. See, I wouldn't normally have the impropriety to turn up, sir, but it's just a lot of us, our rents are due, and you know some of the wives, especially if they're recently fallen, they've got kiddies, sir, and you know, hungry bellies and all that.
Murta will go and find the file and start flicking through it to try and work out how much this guy is owed.
Adele says very quietly, Abrams, you say your name is? Have you not heard? Have you not heard of the recent duel?
What duel?
Our captain here has succeeded Riley as leader of the Grey Lanterns.
Somebody killed Riley?
The entire company. Adele looks straight at Constantine.
Because he was Craven.
Craven? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. All I know
Adele
is that he used to
turns.
turn up regular once a month and give us all the Widows and Orphans and Cripples Fund. Don't know about him being Craven.
Adele says, "How long did you know him?"
Well, his family's owned the business, owned the company for generations, so I didn't know him per se because he's an officer, but basically his whole life, nearly. Since he was old enough to join the company proper.
So, how many years would that be?
About 25-ish.
They
Maybe.
joined the company proper. This man never served.
What do you mean he never served?
We asked him if he would join the company, serve the company. He said it was beneath him.
Beneath him? No, it wouldn't be beneath him.
He never offered us any help.
He didn't offer you any help? That's very strange. Well, I'm sure he had his reasons.
It sounds as if you knew him rather well, despite him being a distant officer.
Well, I wouldn't say I knew him very well. I knew of him.
We recently had a terrible loss where his older brother was slain. Did you know his brother?
Yeah, I knew his brother. Fought with him once or twice.
Yet you never fought with Riley?
No, he was a bit younger. But I fought with the older brother, and then I fought with... sorry, I'm just going to pull up their names, so I'm not just yada-yaddering. I fought with Gervin several times, even in the Shard invasions. That's where I took a bit of bile shrapnel to the shoulder, and then he flexes his shoulder and it makes a kind of horrible, sickly bone crunch noise.
While this is all going on,
terrible affair that Gervin, as you probably know, didn't make it out of the islands.
Yes, we had heard that there was a third brother, but nobody ever told us anything about him.
No. See, the king of Signar, Vinter at the time, had it in his head that he was going to invade and give Crix what for. Sent this whole massive armada of ships and soldiers. Took us down to one of the islands, ploughed man after man after man at the Crix. An unending horde of Crix came upon us. But Vinter just seemed to not care about our casualty rates. Gervin was trying to earn his favour, so we ended up in a pretty rough part of it, and he fell fighting amongst the lads. I happened to be in where's the other bit? Sorry about this. I happened to be in Lorrigan's detachment, which was slightly more coastal, and we managed to survive it and make our way back home after the war ended.
And this was 10 years ago, you say?
Probably more than 10 years ago.
10 years ago was the Cadoran Axe incident, so...
Yes, I know. Adele is testing him to see if his story matches the timeline.
Yeah.
And
on that note, has Murta found anything in the documents yet?
Yeah, so can you do a research roll, please?
Can I use law instead?
Law what?
Law.
Oh, yeah.
As in the law.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because I actually have that.
Yeah, go for it. What did you roll?
I rolled a 12.
Okay.
And got a crit, so woo, I got my feat point back.
So you spot that towards the back of the company's regular ledger is a big gap in between the pages, and in between these pages is a lot thinner separate book that's been placed in towards the back of this ledger. And pulling it out, you notice that it's a separate second ledger.
Okay.
So opening it, it looks more to be more personal accounts, and looking through them, because you all this while is probably a few minutes talking with Abrams here. You notice that indeed there is annotated monthly pay stipend going to the Widows, Orphans and Cripples Fund.
Okay, and do I recognise Abrams? Can I find Abrams' name amongst that?
You see that he's basically the treasurer of that organisation.
I'll close that, and I'm assuming they're going to talk a bit longer to cover the time I was looking through all that.
Sure.
But obviously, once that's
guys
done,
want to
I'll
say
kind
to
of
him?
step into the room.
Well, Dell still has a couple of questions.
Sure.
So, okay, personal quest time. Adele says to Abrams, well, a good friend of mine, an officer, was lost during the recent battle, the one where we lost 200 of our strength. I have been hoping for a chance to find his widow. I have his signet ring. If I were to show it to you, perhaps you might be able to point me in the right direction.
He looks at the ring but has no clue, but he says, if any of the widows of the recently fallen have contacted him, he will mention this to them so that they might be able to get in contact with you, if that helps.
Yes, although I suspect she may be too proud to accept such aid, but I would appreciate it nevertheless.
She might be too proud to accept the signet ring of her fallen husband.
No, I mean charity. She
Oh.
might be too proud to accept charity.
Okay, well, that's the best I can do, I'm afraid.
And I appreciate it. I will continue my own investigations.
Okay.
I'm guessing at this point is the point where Murta would walk in and go, yeah, he's the treasurer of the aforementioned group. So we owe him... How much would we owe him, Tom?
50 gold a month.
50 gold a month. Huh. I'd look at it and kind of go, we owe... Close the folder a bit and go, Catman, can I take you aside for a second?
Yeah.
So, Adele, give the man some, I try to say the word hospitality and fuck it up.
Adele turns...
Hospitality?
Adele turns to Abrams and says, was Lord Riley's family involved in any other charitable ventures that you were aware of?
He says, I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Well,
I guess you can't.
seeing... Yes, unfortunately.
So, I'll turn to Constantine and go, right, 50 gold. We don't have 50 gold. That's how much they're given each month, and we have 49 gold, 8 silver, 5 copper. So,
by the way, you note that it used to be significantly less that Riley was paying him, but because of the recent influx of people applying to the fund because of the 200 dead, the fund has jumped up somewhat.
Yeah. So,
because remember, it would have taken you weeks and weeks to get back
Yeah.
giving widows time to apply to the fund, as it were.
Out of character, you said you were an aristocrat, right, Constantine?
Yeah.
So shouldn't you be getting 50 gold a month? I mean,
Right.
I don't because exiled Laelies, but
Yes,
you
yes,
should.
that's true.
So it's basically I run past Constantine. We're a silver and 5 copper short of the 50 gold in the treasury.
Yeah, we need to have money to operate. We're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to pay this guy this month.
But
It just doesn't work.
yeah, so
We
it's
don't have the money.
so
From next month, I should be able to cover it, but we can't cover it this month. That's just the plain truth of it all.
I kind of look at him a bit and go, right, I've got enough money to cover the rest of this, but then the treasury's gone.
Exactly, and we have to have money. We have to have money for operating. It's just like if we don't, we may as well fold the whole company down. Like there's not enough money to do it. It's not that.
All right. We need to have a chat with this bloke then and try and get him to understand that. And just to double check, is this a fund that we still want to carry on doing?
I think it's only right that we do keep carrying on this fund, but we like there were 200 of us. There are now 5. That's
right.
The resources are not there to carry this on every month.
We're going to have to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
I can scare him. I'm not very good at the whole being nice thing.
Has Murta told the rest where this information came from?
He hasn't yet, but he's quite clearly holding the folder.
Right, okay.
Okay, show me the folder.
Pass him the folder, let him look through it.
Intelligence check, please.
Oh, bloody hell.
So, looking through the folder, there's some notes down the edges of the columns that you don't understand what they're annotated to mean. But you can clearly see that this is Raleigh's personal accounts folder, and that the money from the widows and orphans was coming from his own pocket. Comparing it to the Grey Lanterns ledger themselves, you can see that this was because the Grey Lanterns didn't have the money to pay for it themselves. You also see incomings in Raleigh's ledger, and annotated next to it, it says L Galleon.
L Galleon?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Lucky Galleon.
Ladened.
Ladened. It's the casino.
Yeah.
We owe the mob.
No. These are incomings. So like.
Oh, right.
So he was getting incomings from the Laden Galleon.
So you don't think he was using his gambling to actually generate money for the widows and orphans, do you?
I look at him and go, I don't know, Gov, what goes on in your lot's heads is not what goes on in mine.
Well, Adele isn't privy to this conversation, so that was out of character.
Ah, right. Out of character? Sounds like it. I am loving how this knife is twisting. Like, just steadily more and more. This is great. I love this.
So, in character, Adele asks Abrams about the widows and the children and that sort of thing.
Yep. Okay.
I'm just waiting for these guys to come over and
Oh,
you
so
know
you're spinning your wheels.
that
Okay.
I can
Yeah.
that
So
I can start pitching ideas.
right.
Okay, I want to have a look at this ledger, and,
Okay.
this time I'm going to boost my roll because I want to find out more. Like, see what? How do I boost?
There should be a button for it. If there isn't,
So
just
Oh,
roll
yeah.
1d6 and add it to your roll.
you can click like the little beige circle to the left of the stat.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Oh boy. Okay. What exactly are you trying to discern?
Like exactly where the money's coming from, exactly what assets he's using to pay for this, like everything. I want to know the ins and outs
So
of the whole economy.
from what you
He's
can
got-
from what you can discern, the Grey Lanterns' money themselves, money from operating costs and things like that, was barely breaking even. The company used to be bigger, so over the years it slowly folded barracks at chapter houses and made them more of just places where the company can shift to should they be employed somewhere for a long time. You can see that as the finances of the Grey Lanterns became harder, Raleigh was leaning more and more on his own personal finances to fund certain aspects, including the widows and orphans. When his own personal accounts became dry, that's when the L galleon starts to come in as sometimes losses, but mainly incomings into his own personal finances. So from this, you discern, especially on a 17, for fuck's sakes, man, you discern that he spent over the last couple of years the majority of his fortune on outfitting the Grey Lanterns when funds were unavailable to buy weapons and ammunition or armor repairs or whatever, and also all of the funds for the orphans for the last couple of years at least have been coming out of his own personal funds. You can even see large sections where there's been a huge income, like thousands, where he's sold off personal property.
Maybe he wasn't as much of an arsehole then.
Twisty.
Including his the family estate. It turns out he was living here at the HQ.
So how was he affording to pay Gantak? That should be in there.
It is in there.
Well, he couldn't. His money ran out.
It did run out. He was paying Gantak out of his own money.
Out of the winning.
Yep, but it ran out.
Okay. So we know we've got chapter houses in Marion, and we know we've got chapter houses in Kursk and in Caspia.
Yep.
If we sold them off, how much money does that get?
Nothing. You can't sell them off.
Why not?
Because I'm not having you go all the way to them to sell them off. Because that's what it would take. You can't just sell them off.
This is something we already discussed outside of the game, guys. That is a lot of work for Tom, and
I'm not
also
giving you guys thousands and thousands of gold.
Go and sell them off. I'm saying, how do we get the money?
Well, I have a couple of ideas.
Okay, I'm just going to yada
can
yada and
roll.
reverse a bit. You don't have the chapter houses anymore.
yeah, it's because this is
That was a sentence I said in the moment, which I hadn't fully planned out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
the chapter houses do not exist anymore.
David has dropped out for a moment.
Okay.
Don't know what.
I hope he's all right.
But yeah, it should be fine. But yeah, basically, the way to do it is basically we just need to work out how.
Welcome back.
So basically,
Anyway, let's discuss this in character.
yeah.
So Adele turns to Abrams and says, "How many widows and children actually are there in the fund?"
He says, well, more keep coming every day, but roughly about God, giving me numbers now. X number. Say 70.
Okay, so what if we were to bring them all here?
They
You know,
wouldn't
they're
fit.
part of the Grey Lanterns. No. I don't mean to house them here. I simply mean to have them visit us. They've lost their husbands, their brothers. They're part of the Grey Lanterns, and yes, I feel that maybe they should visit us. At this point, he's waiting for Constantine and Murtagh to hurry up and actually get out there.
Basically, I'll turn around and say to Constantine then, you back, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. I'll turn to Constantine and go, right. Based on what we know, we need to have a chat with him. I think we need to at least stump up half of it if we're going to carry this on, because we need them to know that we'll support them. And I'm willing to put... I've only got a little bit of money left myself. I've got about 4 gold to my name. But I can put in a couple of gold to try and tide things over. But obviously we need to make sure he understands what's going on.
This is my mess. Right. We're going to pay... How much have we got in the funds?
In the funds, we have 48 gold, 8 silver, and 5 copper.
So I take it
49 gold, 8
in chat, in real, like you guys are discussing your money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So
that's fine. Carry on.
put 15. This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to pay 10 out of my own pocket.
Okay.
Pay 15 out of the company pocket for the half that we're going to give. Right.
Right.
At the end of the month, when money comes through from my estate, that's all going on the orphans fund, right? And as soon as we have 50 gold in our company funds, the other half of it is going to go to the orphans fund to pay off 25 that we've not already. That's how we're going to do it. And if he doesn't like it, then he doesn't like it.
Okay, so Abrams is hearing all this, and he's twiddling his cap in between his hands like a shitty steering wheel, and he's looking all embarrassed, and he says, sirs, I didn't mean to be a nuisance. It's just I only came inquiring because he hadn't came to give us the money.
This is why I took the captain to the other room so that he wouldn't necessarily hear.
He says, all right, so he's not in the room with you. Okay, then. Sorry.
Yeah, this is...
My misunderstanding. That didn't happen.
Okay. But so we're basically going to go in the room and tell him this anyway. Okay. So
yeah, so we've had that conversation.
Yep.
We'll go back into the room.
Yep.
He doesn't need to know where the money's coming from.
Okay.
We're going to tell him that funds are low.
Right.
And we're going to say, look, here's the money that we can give you at this stage. As soon as we do have the funds to pay the rest for this month, we will. But from next month, this should all be sorted. You don't need to worry.
Okay. He says, I didn't mean to be a trouble. I only came because Sir Raleigh hadn't been round to see us this month is all. So I just, wondered, it had been a few days since he was due, so I wondered if everything was all right.
Adele cuts him off and says, look, man, you've done nothing wrong, but I actually potentially have a solution here. Now, I'm assuming that these widows are able-bodied. Now, what if we were to have some of them watch over the children? You said there were many hungry children. And what if the rest of them could work? Because as I recall, and he looks straight at Murtagh, were there not jobs offering good money going down on with the woodcutters.
I kind of
For able-bodied man.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Not
I look at him in the
cripples, orphans,
face.
and women.
Yeah, I kind of look him in the eyes and go,
What?
"Yeah, for men." I'm kind of like not quite following what you're laying down here. It's they've. I turn to him and go, "If there are any of the kids that might be old enough to work,
No, not the children, the widows. If some of the widows were to look after the children, the rest of them could work as a group. And that might supplement their income in the short term, long enough for them to pay their rent."
He says,
and I look at him and go,
I'll ask them, but most of them already do work, sir. You know, taking jobs here or there, repairing fishnets. And when he says fishnets, he actually means nets for catching fish.
"Yes,"
As opposed to what?
Fishnet
as
types.
opposed to
Stockings.
fishnet types.
Yeah, so they take workers, sail repairers, and all sorts of other jobs. I to understand.
So, yeah, it's like the other thing that from Murta's perspective is it was a group of woods men. We literally saw no women. So
Also, you're missing the part where it's a bridge and a ferry away.
Adele is ignoring these little niceties. As a player, I'm fully aware of it, but this is Adele.
Yeah. It's the whole Adele's a romanticist, and it's like these guys are like, no. It's like the Iron Kingdoms is a lot fairer than the same age of real life, but yeah, no, a lot of work was still like very much men do it in the Iron Kingdoms, is my understanding.
Yeah, it's like the olden days.
Yeah.
Yes, like I said, I know this. Adele is just being
Not
Adele.
just
Just
that,
run
the
with it.
logistics of they don't live like the woodsmen live in. They live near the logging area. They don't live in Five Fingers.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of. This is where Murta's like, no. But it's Murta turns to the guy and goes, as the treasurer for this
Adele
lot,
looks at Murta and says, well,
Guys,
perhaps
you're
we can find
overtalking
other
each
work
other.
for them then. Steady work.
Murta was
Decent
talking.
work.
Sorry, Murta was talking.
And he does his whole, I'm a noble.
Colin.
What do you expect?
Colin.
Uh-huh.
Murta was talking, dude.
I'm sorry, did it cut it off?
Oh, yeah. It's all right. Carry on.
It's part of the difficulties of playing online.
Yeah,
I get
no
it.
worries.
That's why
I was just
don't
saying,
worry.
You know.
Yeah, it's basically
making
Murta
anything
just.
about
I was also only turning around to kind of go, as the treasurer for this group, I understand the difficulties of a treasurer. Is half going to be enough for now?
He looks at you with kind of like a kind of. He hates the fact that this conversation is even happening, and he felt you can see awkwardness on his face, and he said, "We'll make do for certain."
Right. If anyone does cause any problems, come here, tell us, and we will go and we will deal with it.
He says, "Thank you kindly."
Right. I assume that Constantine gave me the 10 gold in the other room.
Yeah.
Just to make it less. So I take the 15 gold with the 10 gold and pass it to the guy and go, we will resolve this, my friend.
He says, I'm sorry to bother you. Sorry for your loss. And then he walks out.
Right.
Oof.
Sorry if that kind of killed your momentum, Colin.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't realise you were speaking. I think Discord must have died for a second.
No,
because it was completely quiet when I was talking. So, it's not usually my habit to talk over people.
We know.
Yeah, no, there's always lag when you start to speak. So where I was talking, you wouldn't have heard it for a few seconds until after I'd started talking, and it would have been the same for you as well, where you start talking and it takes a few seconds for it to pick up. So it's always that like slight dissonance.
Good use of the word dissonance.
Yes, I was quite pleased with that one myself, actually. But yes.
Well, as an aside, I was in a meeting once, and the speaker was saying, "Oh, I've just discovered this new thing called cognitive dissidence."
Nope.
Oh,
Nope,
oh
nope,
dear.
nope.
And I was at the table, pissing myself laughing, but trying to keep it under wraps. As this motivational speaker was telling us about cognitive dissonance, and it was all I could do not to stand up and go, "It's dissonance." Sorry, as an aside. Carry on.
Okay, so he has walked out.
Rolled out.
Yeah. Since we were going through the folders anyway, I will kind of point out that 10 grand debt we have and point out we can cancel that.
Yeah, we'll make sure we do that as soon as possible.
Okay, so
Is there anything we need to do with that, Tom, or are you just going to let us kind of
Yep, it didn't
wave
happen.
your hand? Cool.
Again, that entire thing when I was talking through what your assets were, I hadn't really thought it through, and realizing now, and the weeks since when I've been mulling it over, saddling you with a 10 grand debt, and then it not being the Warjacks you chose and things like that, it didn't sit well with me, nor did giving you thousands of gold's worth of, or potentially hundreds of thousands of gold's worth of assets. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm.
Yeah, it's fine, Tom. All DMs do it. This is an excellent example to the chat of DMs do make mistakes. We are still human.
Yeah.
And Tom is fantastic, and I will attest to that to the end of my fucking days that you are a fantastic DM.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but if your DM makes a similar mistake, keep chill. Anyway, after that aside,
So-
apologies, Tom,
The docs?
Apologies for me. Why?
for taking a part of your game to lecture people about DMs.
That's fine, I'm not bothered. No bother,
So-
Carly.
So, to the docks, I think Colin or David said.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
So-
To the docs.
Sorry, so no. Can we go? I need to get ammo, and I need to get. Yeah, we need to fix the rifle. We need to fix the blade that we picked up. We need to do all of that kind of stuff.
I think the broken shit we can safely leave in the base and not worry about for now. But obviously, ammo is something you will need.
Yeah,
So-
we don't need to spend a great deal of time on ammo. However much it costs in the rulebook, that's how much it costs you.
Right, can you spot me 3 gold crowns then?
From the treasury.
The party funds,
How
yeah.
much were you down to?
Well, considering that I bought a rifle.
No,
And-
I'm not talking about your money. I'm talking about ammo.
Well, if 3 gold crowns will give me 5, which will put me up to 14.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you here. I am 100% relying on you guys being honest about your ammo, because I'll be fucked if I'm going to go through every single one of your character sheets after every combat.
No, I was down to 9.
Mm.
To be fair, the most I've fired in a single combat was 4. But
Yeah,
you know,
like I say, I'll be fucked if I can be bothered.
I've spent the free gold for you, so feel free to
brilliant, thank you.
spend that.
And in terms of, like I've mentioned before, you know how I feel about connections. I am fully happy with parties making connections with arms suppliers for cheaper rates.
Yeah.
But it not costing level ups.
Yep. Well, that's something we will roleplay at another time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That is
Because it's like there is definitely we will go around and go, hey, we need food, ammo,
because by the
and
way, my intention is, this is just me, GM voice, is for Vab to potentially become your way to get crafting materials. So when Mac is creating something out of the forge that you one day will get, you're going to require metal. Where is that coming from?
I think something to discuss. We will say characters discussed it, but out of game, so that we're not slowing the game down,
Yep.
is I'm kind of used to doing money shit anyway. Do you want me to kind of sit down, make a money plan, put it to the group, and see what the group thinks?
Yes.
Cool. I will do that out of game for you guys.
Thank you.
Right, so we're heading to the docks because let's at least get to the docks before the end of the session. We've got about half an hour.
Yes. Told you had 2 sessions worth of shit, Tom.
Oh, more than 2 sessions worth of shit, trust. Now, and by the way, there's no salt for me at all.
I know.
So you've gone from Chaser Island and you've headed to approximately this area. So now would be probably appropriate to roleplay, discuss how you will make your inquiries about these disappearances.
Well, we know there was disappearances on the dock on the prow
Yep.
of Captain's Island.
Yep, that's correct.
Was it Captain's Island?
Yes, Captain's Island.
Right. So they were going missing on the prow of Captain's Island.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's a city watch. Does the city watch or the city guards, do they have a presence on Captain's Island?
Yes.
Right. And Murtaugh would know that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's go and ask them what they.
Cool.
Okay. So you spend a bit of time finding a watchman, or are you going to a watch station?
We'll go to a watch station.
Okay, watch station's easier to find. You just ask a passerby, where's the closest watch station? They direct you to it. It's a relatively nondescript looking watch station building. A relatively bored looking officer is sat in a chair as you enter.
Hail and well met, fellow. We hear that there is work going at the docks, but we also hear that people are disappearing from the docks, and wondered if you had any knowledge of that.
He said, yeah. Missing persons reports are coming in at least a couple a week.
Where are these reports coming from?
The warehouse district.
Any particular company?
I don't know. I honestly hadn't thought of that. I could check. He says questioningly.
If you
Adele chimes in at this point and says, we are of the Grey Lanterns, and this is our Captain Constantine.
You are so
We
on brand.
are... I'm sorry, what now?
You're so on brand. You're always like the front man selling the company.
Someone has to. Anyway...
This is JML.
And Adele says, we would be happy to look into this matter for you. Of course, we will require a fee for our services, either directly or as a reward from these companies. We need to get calling cards.
A fee from those companies.
Yes, of course, I know that. But Adele's not going to say that to the watch officer.
Okay. But that's what the watch officer says to you.
Adele says, of course.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a reward?
Currently, no.
Murta will go. And who would we talk to about possibly arranging a reward?
Whichever company
the watch
is running the warehouses where people are going missing, I guess.
Okay.
He says there's not been a reward posted because I guess most companies don't particularly care if their workers go missing. They just hire more workers.
And if we did this job for the watch, who would be the person to talk to about doing it for you?
The captain, I guess.
Alright. In the main watch station?
Yeah.
Alright. Sounds like we know where to go. Thank you for your help, my man. Can you just check if it's the same company each time?
He checks. Sorry, I've got to roll a research roll. He's not too sure.
And Dell says, "And your name, sir?"
He says his name is. 1 second.
Cleveland, clearly.
His name is Juck.
Jack. Jack. Okay. I suggest we go and talk to the captain. Captain.
Makes sense to me.
Right.
Adele thanks the man for his time.
He says okay and goes back to sitting staring at the wall, which he was doing when he walked in. He's not the smartest of cookies you come to decide.
I am so tempted to sleight of hand something from under his nose just because he's not paying attention.
I think you need
I
to...
won't.
No, excuse me. I think you need to flip your coin.
That is an excellent point.
Yep. I'm a bad GM. So I take it that means you are stealing from him. Right, make a steely pickpocket roll, please.
I don't have pickpocket.
You can do it untrained.
I know. It's just funny.
It is funny. That's why I GM said, you can flip your coin because I know how you're playing your character.
I hope you boost your roll.
Roll less.
I will spend a feat point to boost agility, I'm guessing, Tom.
Oh, yeah. And he's going to do his perception. He got a double 6. So 1 second.
What were you trying to steal?
I have no idea. It was more just a he's not paying
make
attention.
FYI, you just stole 7 copper from him.
On a double 6, he still fucked it up. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, because that's his roll, but I have to add his perception.
Yeah, so 7 copper.
Yeah, and his perception was less than 3.
This was
bear
me
in mind,
just...
a base character before any upgrades is perception 3.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So it's I almost imagine it as like Murta just watching him stare at the wall, looks at the table and sees some coin and just sweeps them into his own pouch and walks off.
And
Just
you
like,
have just
"Fuck you."
expertly narrated what I would have if you hadn't already done it.
Shall we head to the captain's office? Do our characters see this?
Make perception rolls if you care, if you see it.
And that's how you know I'm not fucking you when I say what I'm flipping, because that was not a good idea. That was a bad idea.
Stealing from a watchman.
Yeah, that was a terrible,
for
terrible.
goodness sake.
Are you
This
glad-
is a terrible roll.
Are you glad that I mentioned it, though?
Yeah, it's funny, and I appreciate that you pay attention.
Well, because it is what your character has done.
At like points of like
Constantine notices.
just
Constantine is not happy about this.
Oh well.
He also knows better than to confront Murta. Right?
This is delicious. I'm sorry. Right. Okay. So the captain's office is upstairs. So you head upstairs, and there's a shut door. So knock at the door.
Go on, Adele.
Come in.
So Adele raps sharply with his knuckles twice, and he pulls himself up to his full height with his whole Laerley's "I'm an aristocrat"
I said,
sort of
come in.
attitude. Then Adele opens the door for his captain and allows Murta to go in as well, because Laerley's manners dictate that Adele is actually a gentleman.
Okay.
And Adele turns to the watch captain and says, "Good. It is afternoon, isn't it?"
Yeah.
Okay. "Good afternoon, sir. We are of the Grey Lanterns. May I present our Captain Constantine to you? We have just visited your watch officer, Juck, and we are seeking to investigate the missing persons of the docks."
You notice he visibly sighs when you mention Juck.
Adele chooses not to mimic it, but his eyes do flicker slightly.
He says, yeah, so a bunch of the shipping companies have been reporting missing persons over the last couple of months. It's been more and more frequent. It used to be that I didn't even send anybody to investigate it because, there's a Five Fingers disappearance as a par for the course, but it's getting to the point where this can't just be a coincidence.
You said it's several shipping
Well-
companies.
Well, yeah, several shipping companies, but they're all in one area.
And where is that area?
It's on the Prow.
Which company in particular has had the most report?
That would be he gives you the name of the company with the most disappearances.
Okay. And do you have an address for them?
He does, and hands it to you
Cool. Thank you.
because they'd given it to him as part of the investigation request.
Before we all fuck off before asking. So,
I was going to ask.
yep. So, does this mean you wish to hire our services? We are, after all, rather good at all this. I'm previously an ex-bounty hunter. We might just be able to find something that maybe the guards had not.
I'd like a negotiation roll from at least one of you. I'm going to go with Murta because he's the one actually saying this stuff.
Cool. This sounds like a intellect, because there isn't a persuasion, so it's
You
intellect.
only hell and went and did the roleplay for it, so
Yeah, I will spend a feat point because I think bringing up that I was a bounty hunter is a good thing. And still I roll kind of meh, but I did get a crit.
We've got a crit.
he says, we do have some money in the petty cash for things like this. He says, I could spare 25 gold for you guys to investigate this.
25 gold each, or as a whole? Adele interrupts.
He laughs and says, 25 gold.
I'm not sure 25 is really worth our while. You make it 30.
That's going to require a persuasion or a negotiation, actually. Negotiation. Because at this point you're haggling. Half a denarii? You must be mad.
I'm going to boost it.
He says, he looks kind of resigned and says, sure, 30.
So I lose one and then gain one.
That's how.
Or you could give it to another member of the party. Because
Do
you
I
have
need-
team leader.
Do any of you need it?
I'm down one, but I'm not.
But so would he.
I was more. It was more just kind of pointing out that he had the ability because we all
Yeah.
keep forgetting.
Good shout. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a name of the company. You've got a agreed sum. Intelligence checks, please.
I am going to get him to write it down in an agreement.
Yep, he does so.
Good. Just base intellect.
So Adele turns to Constantine and says in Laelese, you know, we could also ask the shipping company for payment as well.
Yes, that thought had crossed my mind.
Of course, Adele was going to ask them for money too.
I know.
Tom, who do you think we are?
I know.
We're
I know.
mercenary.
But I just wanted you guys. I wanted the party to get the possible rewards.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adele turns to Constantine and says, also in Laelese, so should we hire ourselves on as workers and see who tries to steal us, or do we want to investigate in the traditional manner?
The traditional manner is easier.
Yeah, let's do the traditional manner. Although, you know, if it doesn't work, we have other options.
Yeah.
No.
So one would
Right.
imagine you want to go to the shipping company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like a plan to me.
So you have the address.
Adele wants to get the names of all of the shipping companies who have missing people from the captain before they leave.
You now have them.
Perfect. And let's get a fee from each and every one of them.
That will not be
dear.
happening.
We can get a consortium of. We can go and talk to them if they
Yes.
have a consortium and get the agreement from the consortium.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Which is effectively the same thing, but less hassle for Tom.
Yep. So anyway, you arrive at the address of the shipping company. This is essentially a large warehouse on the dock front. Big, huge doors on the front of it. Off to the left-hand side, there is a small office taking up a small portion of the warehouse. Very small portion in comparison to the rest of the building, because obviously they want to spend as much square footage on storing things rather than admin.
Okay. We head off to the office then, I guess.
Okay.
Go on, Adele.
So Adele takes the lead and he walks up, back straight, shoulders back, you know,
We
his
are the
whole
Grey
I am a
Lanterns."
noble. Yes, and he actually says that to the office admin who's ever at the desk. Would you care to describe him, her, it?
So this particular admin looks a little bit like the Keymaster in Ghostbusters.
Which I haven't seen.
All right. So basically, he's a short, slight of build man with glasses and worried look on his face. He has so he's wearing spectacles, and yeah, he looks bothered all the time.
Adele raps slightly on the desk with his knuckles and says, "Good sir, we are of the Grey Lantern," and he says this in
is
confidence.
scared
Yes.
because he was busy
And
with all his papers.
Adele leans in and says, "So, we are hiring our services into the disappearance of the dock workers. Would such a thing be of interest to you?"
You're hiring yourself? What?
I think
The posh boy means is that we've heard that your workers are going missing, and that he wants to offer our services.
He looks at you and goes, "Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, it's got to the point where we're finding it harder and harder to get new hires, and the ones that are willing to do the work aren't really aren't actually willing to do the work. They're willing to take our coin, but they don't actually do much. Yes, I'd certainly pay if you could solve this problem.
And
unionize?
how much would that be?
I'd be willing to.
Sorry, David. I think we spoke
all right,
at the
don't
same
worry, don't worry.
time.
He said, "I'd be willing to pay 30 gold for the resolution of whatever problem there is."
We have that in writing.
45.
Negotiation. Clearly, you need to roll it. I'm surprised you didn't think of it already.
Right, I'm going to boost this roll, and I don't have negotiation, so I'm going to use intellect.
Okay.
So that is a 13, I believe.
Okay. He says no, 30.
Then I'm going to say, how about 40? And I'm going to boost my roll.
Okay. He says no, 30.
Adele says, "Sir, if you are losing money each day and you don't have the staff, the employees that you want, surely another 15 gold would not hurt your coffers, but holding out might."
He says 30's all I've got to offer for this, and 30's is what I'll offer. If you don't take this, somebody else will.
Oh, so you're offering us exclusivity?
If you agree to 30, you get exclusivity. Yes.
I go. I'll step forward and go. Excellent. Turn to Adele and go. Piece of paper, mate.
Adele pulls one out of his adventuring scholarly satchel and hands it to Murtagh.
I write a quick contract and go. Sign there, please.
And he does.
Excellent.
After
Thank you
checking
kindly.
after checking it thoroughly.
Yes. Where
You
it does
get- you
just
get
straight
the
up say we get exclusivity, and if we
You
resolve
get
it,
the
we get 30
feeling that
gold.
this guy is quite studious.
Adele turns to Constantine and says in Laelese, "So how about those widows? Do you think that having them work here would help, or shall we not?"
You do realise the widows have jobs, right?
You said
widows
that they were odd jobs, finding work wherever they could. This could be steady employment. And also they could disappear, which means that we would reduce the... Never
Right,
mind.
okay, you
I'm not
also
saying that...
you also realise dock work is heavy manual lifting, right?
Yeah,
This is
long term
Adele
with
we're
the-
talking about.
Okay. Right, anyway, so
His experience of women is clearly every woman he's encountered is a warcaster.
yeah. So
He was...
he says to you that every disappearance has been similar. It's all been late at night. It's all been somebody that was unloading a shipment or loading a shipment into the back of this warehouse, and
So they're happening at the back of the warehouse. All of them are happening in the same.
he says, pretty much, yeah.
So were the shipments touched, or were they left as...
He said it's the
As they
darndest
were
thing. It's
loaded.
as if the person just clean disappeared.
So there was no additional damage to the shipments.
No theft, neither.
No theft neither.
Have you brought in a priest?
No. Why? What do you think?
Well,
Do you think I
I
should?
mean, you're a superstitious lot, aren't you? And maybe it's the work of a ghost. Of course, we will investigate thoroughly.
Well, if this isn't something you can handle,
Of course it is. We kill things. We're mercenaries. Why? I mean, I turn to Constantine and simply say, in Laelies, do you have any things to tell him about the things we've killed?
Oh. No. I mean, we've killed gangers, we've killed Trollkin, we've tossed a jack into the river, but none of that's particularly impressive.
No, I suppose not. But no, we can handle this. I was simply asking what you...
He pushes his glasses up his nose and say, "Are you sure you lot can handle this?"
Look, you've just signed a contract, and we will hold to it.
Murta goes, "Ignore the posh boys. Yeah, we can. Right. Turn around, lads. Let's go and do it."
Time to investigate the back of the warehouse.
Yeah, just go down to the back of the warehouse and see what we...
All right. So the warehouse is fairly busy. There's people bustling back and forth, moving crates, carrying crates about, rolling barrels and such. All seems to be fairly standard kind of cargo.
Okay. So we go to the back of the warehouse. Are we going to roll for investigation?
Detection would be most appropriate, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to boost it.
I guess at least I got feet point back.
Actually, if you get a failed roll, that doesn't get your feet point back.
I thought on skill rolls it was as long as you crit.
Oh, I thought things still
Because-
had to be a critical success.
My understanding was that they did 1 second. It does state success. Okay, fair enough. I thought it was just critical, so that the DM didn't basically didn't have to tell you if it was successful or not.
I thought it was a critical success.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you could just, say you find something heavy, you could go, "I'm going to try
just
and lift
spam
the
lift
thing."
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And just keep doing it until you get crits.
Where I thought the thing where it said that a DM can just turn around and go, "No, you don't get it for that," was the cap on that.
I mean, I can still do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, you don't get a feat point back because you were not successful. Constantine, however, notices that one of the walls that seems to have, one of the walls seems to have, it's got a big line of shelving that reaches up to the ceiling, and then cranes and step ladders are used to reach the higher up boxes. On one side, most of these boxes have got like a thin layer of dust. Obviously, this cargo or whatever it is, you don't know what's in these boxes, hasn't moved for quite some time. But in front of one of them are irregular scuff marks on the ground.
Say this is up.
No, on the ground there are irregular scuff marks in front of one of the crates.
Okay, can I go and take a closer look?
Yeah, of course you can. That's the whole point of the game.
Interesting.
Okay, so
Adele's going to tag along and see what he can see.
Yep, sure.
Same for Murta.
Yep. So
Nice.
Adele and Marta.
Adele is very consistent here, isn't he? 14.
Adele and Marta both presume that this crate has been moved.
Okay. Right. I'll grab one side. Back into Murtar to grab the other side.
Okay,
Let's see if we can shift it.
Strength rolls from both of you, please.
Oh dear. Oh, where's
Do you
JP?
need Adele to help?
We'll try again.
I haven't
Right,
done
lad.
anything yet.
Yeah, we might have been successful.
We won't.
Right,
Okay, this time Adele is going to help.
right, Adele, everyone, heave out.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Well, actually, if you guys actually knew the rules for strength checks and assisted rolls, basically what it is everyone rolls, and then everyone that was successful adds to the main person's roll.
Right.
So this was actually successful.
Yeah. Although the fun thing here is, all of us are the same at this.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
That's fucking teamwork. So
This is
Adele
what-
turns to Constantine and says, "You know, we ought to hire a bloodhound."
So anyway, when you move said crates, you find yourselves looking at a hole in the wall.
Let's do a perception check on that hole in the wall, shall we?
Yep. That sounds like a solid plan.
Adele turns to Murtagh and says, very quietly, "Ghosts."
Ghosts. Ghosts.
Yes, ghosts. He's being
I look-
sarcastic.
Okay, ghosts. Weirdos.
Can I
Sorry,
use-
you guys
also,
are breaking
actually,
up.
that is a
I'm going to
point.
reconnect.
What?
We were breaking up for him.
Okay. So from your surveillance of the hole into the wall, you notice what look like footprints in the dust and debris of the broken down wall and the passageway that seems to slope downwards.
Tracking. I can do that. Tracking is a thing I can do.
Yep.
Tracking is a thing I can do.
You can follow them downwards. Now, hopefully, you don't get to see too much here.
Can I use my Scholar's toolkit to... It allows me to take a rubbing out of artifacts and things. Can I take a rubbing of the footprint?
You can try. I don't like saying no to things.
No, you can say no to it. I'm just asking. Also, I can only hear half of what you guys are saying, so...
Okay.
That's interesting.
What's interesting?
That you can only hear half.
Okay.
Which half?
The half in which we insult him.
Okay. For those of you at home, the players can actually see, I'm hoping, can actually see very little.
We can see 3 squares in front of us and 2 squares below Adele and 1 square above Constantine.
Brilliant. So, as you descend deeper into the passageway, all light fails you as there is nothing but the bits of light coming from the warehouse behind you, and the further down you go, the less that is illuminating the passageway.
Does anyone have any candles?
None of you
That
have
is it.
torches. I checked.
Dale turns back to Constantine and says, "You know what? I'm going to head back and I'm going to see if our benefactor will lend us some."
To be continued, because it's midnight.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I checked.
It was
And-
Ghost.
None of you motherfuckers have torches.
Yep.
Okay. So
All right.
I would like to thank everybody for coming out to watch or watching again on YouTube. If you like what you've seen here today, be sure to join us again next week at 8 p.m. UK time or watch again on YouTube. Yeah, hit like, hit subscribe, hit follow, do all the social media things. And thanks for joining us. Laters. Anyone else want to say goodbye?
See you guys next time.
Yeah. See you, everyone.
Ta-ra!
Bye-bye.
And remember, treat your DMs well.